Padres batting order now, presented by Prestone. The igniter, the speedy Dave Roberts in left field. Todd Walker, the veteran, at second base. Brian Giles, right field. The first three hitters all left-handed. Suppan does not do well against lefties overall. Mike Piazza, the great catcher, hitting cleanup. Adrian Gonzalez hit over 300 this year. At first base, Mike Cameron, the outstanding center fielder with power. Russell Branyan, powerful third base. Another left-handed hitter, Jeff Blum, a switch hitter at short. And Chris Young is the pitcher, batting ninth for San Diego. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Also with us again here today is Aaron Andrews. Let's go down to Aaron. Aaron, don't you ever sleep?
I know you guys don't. You got in the same time I did. Well, guys, with the Padres down 2-0, if they want to know anything about miracle comebacks, all they have to do is talk to one of their own teammates, Dave Roberts. Now, remember, he stole that critical base as a pinch runner in the 2004 ALCS when the Red Sox came back to beat the Yankees down 3-0. Dave Roberts told me he, along with his other Padre teammates, Alan Embry and Mark Bellhorn, who are also part of that Red Sox World Championship team, have told their teammates, hey, we know all about miracles, and the good thing for us is this Padres team only has to win 3 games. Remember, guys, that Red Sox team had to win 4 games, and by the way, it was against those Yankees.
Those Yankees with that great lineup. And Joe, I'm going to give you one more chance to revisit that comment about the Yankees' greatest lineup ever. But you said it last night, and I'm just kidding with you. But
yeah, oh no.
We'll find out later. They still have time to show
exactly
everybody just what you were talking about.
Yeah. And I still think that they're going to have some, good at bats. They have to. I think they just have to be a little more aggressive today. But we'll see. They have their own game plan.
Here's Jeff Suppan. Well, down the stretch, not much was going well for the Cardinals, but Chris Carpenter, their ace right-hander, and Jeff Suppan, they were the two pitchers who really Tony La Russa had a lot of confidence in down the stretch.
Well, what he does best is he changes speeds, and he uses his fastball judiciously, and he uses a lot of breaking balls and keeps the hitters off balance. But most importantly, he keeps his team in the ball game. I mean, going down the stretch, he pitched really, really well down the stretch. He was 3-0 with a 1.72 earned run average in his last 8 starts from August 25th until the end of the season. So I was a little surprised that he didn't pitch game 2 because he has been the number 2 starter behind Chris Carpenter. But everything has worked out perfectly for the Cardinals.
There's the famous Gateway Arch out there in center field. As we take a look at the Cardinals defensively, and Joe, there's a lot of defensive talent out there for the Cardinals.
Well, they've got a lot of great defensive players and won Gold Gloves, but Belliard made a game-saving play the other day. At least it kept them Padres from making it a game. He made a diving stop in the hole with the bases loaded to keep the Padres from scoring in the ball in game 1 there in San Diego.
Ronnie Belliard, formerly with Cleveland, and a guy that Cleveland, there was talk that they might like to have him back for next year.
But John, one thing that the Padres have to do is they have to get off to a good start. You got to try to score some runs. The Padres have not had a lead in any of the last 6 postseason games that they have played. I mean, that's amazing. You play 6 games, you never get a lead. Obviously, if you don't get a lead, you're going to lose all those games.
Yeah, that's I've always found that to be the case.
That's pretty much the truth.
And he bluffs the butt, takes a called strike, and we are underway at 1:11 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12:11 Central Daylight Time.
Well, we know that Dave Roberts is kind of the igniter if he can make some things happen, if he can get on base.
And he's had a great history of success against Suppan. 7 hits and 11 at-bats, including a home run against Suppan for him, but he's quickly behind him. 0-2. Roberts, you're talking about being the igniter, Joe. 49 steals this year and only caught 6 times. 34 years old.
That's Maury Wills-like, isn't it?
Yeah. He's Maury's protege. Curveball in the dirt, and it's 1-2 strikes. In a way, Suppan is kind of a right-handed version. And if he's on, he might remind us a little bit of last night's performance by Kenny Rogers. He's that kind of a pitcher, a guy who changes speeds well. He's got a big curveball, moves the ball around. And there's his manager, Tony La Russa. 1-2 the count. Curveball. Look at that. Nicely done by Dave Roberts to get the Padres going. His 4th hit of the series.
John, I agree that he's a similar type pitcher, a lot of breaking balls, all speed pitches, as we see a breaking ball here to Dave Roberts, right on the edge, and Roberts does a great job of just going the other way with it, didn't try to pull it. But I don't think we're going to see a pitching performance like we saw last night for a long time. I don't think anybody's going to have that great a control and command of the strike zone and command of changing speeds like we saw last night with Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
And remember, I don't care what we say, that was a great lineup he was pitching against.
Here is Todd Walker. I've been hearing that about that lineup.
Well, I think if you're Bruce Bochy and you haven't been able to take the lead, you haven't scoring runs. They scored 1 run in the 2 ball games. You got your leadoff hitter on, Dave Roberts. I've always felt that you have to do something in the first 1 or 2 pitches if you're a base stealer. You can't just sit over there and wait for the hitter, to get deep in the count. You've got to make something happen right away as a base stealer. The first pitch or the second pitch.
Well, we were talking about that Cardinal defense, and Yadier Molina is a weapon behind the plate as well. He threw out 44% of the base stealers who attempted to steal against him. So he's going to have to get the good jump if he's going to make it against Molina's arm. And Suppan drives him back to the bag. As we said, Dave Roberts, 49 steals, only thrown out 6 times.
And one thing to remember, John, I don't care who's catching, to be honest with you. It just forces you to get a better jump. You steal the base off the pitcher. So you have to read the pitcher, and with a great thrower behind the plate, you just have to get a little better jump than you would ordinarily.
And a called strike to Todd Walker. Walker in there rather than the young Josh Barfield. And I think we were a little bit surprised by that, Joe, but it has to be the fact that left-handers seem to hit Suppan real well. 302 average this year by left-handed hitters as a group against Suppan.
Well, I agree with you that he does have trouble with left-handers, but I think, as the old saying goes, Spark Anderson would always say, we just have to play the game. Play the game to win.
There goes Roberts. And that ball is into left field. And look at that. It is missed. It was missed by Chris Duncan. And Roberts, who was getting ready to head back to first, instead turns back around and goes to third. Into second is Walker. And what happened there to Chris Duncan? He came in to make a nice thigh-high catch, and he missed it.
And we're just talking to Tony La Russa about the fact he got Jim Edmonds back and how that helps his defense in the outfield. Duncan gets there, and he just misses it. I'm not sure if the sun bothered him because the sun is shining over that way, but he got to the ball. He's there in plenty of time. In fact, it's about chest high. And I don't even know where it hit him. I don't think it hit the glove.
I think it just hit him right in the right knee.
Yeah, I didn't think it hit the glove.
And really, he's fortunate that it hit him at all. Otherwise, that ball would have rolled to the wall, and Roberts would have scored. Here's Brian Giles. So the Padres are in great shape here. The big hitters are up. Giles, then Piazza, then Adrian Gonzalez. And they have a chance here to jump to an early lead.
John, I think this is one of the most misunderstood situations in the game. You have runners at second and third, nobody out, and you're a left-handed hitter. You still have to pull the ball. If you pull the ball to the right side, Roberts will score, and Walker will be able to move over to third with less than 2 outs. You actually try to hit as if there's not a runner at third. You're trying to move the runner from second as well.
And Suppan, conversely, a veteran, he's trying to keep that from happening.
If you hit the ball the other way, you're sure you're going to get 1 runner in from third, but you're in a situation here where you can manufacture 2 runs just by pulling the ball to the right side and a fly ball.
Yeah, so they could get 2 runs here without getting any more hits in the inning.
You have to. This is why I say that this is a situation where you have to think in those terms.
Well, he didn't do it. He tried to do it, and he hit it right back to Suppan, and nobody moves up. A disastrous at bat for Brian Giles.
Well, that's what they call one of those really unproductive outs. I mean, ground ball anywhere else on the infield and a run scored. He gets jammed with the fastball, and good job by Suppan to pitch him inside, jams him, hits it right back to Suppan, and he holds the runners.
Well, you'd figure the inside pitch is the one he's going to be able to pull, but he was not able to do it. Now, let's see what Suppan does here. As you see, the Padres, who just cannot seem to ever get ahead in these postseason games lately. Mike Piazza, 5 home runs against Suppan in only 17 career at-bats. So with that kind of a history, Joe, that is a nightmare for Suppan. First base is open. I don't think he's going to come that close to the strike zone here.
Well, I think he has to try to get him out because Adrian Gonzalez is up. And the one thing about postseason play to me, the more people you put on base, the more chances you have of falling farther behind in the ball game. I think you have Adrian Gonzalez on deck. He's a powerful hitter as well. But he's not, obviously he's not going to throw Piazza to anything in the middle of the plate. But Gonzalez is not the guy you want to pitch to with the bases loaded because he actually knows the strike zone pretty well also.
Piazza had 22 home runs this year, 283 average, and considering they play half their games in that cavernous ballpark in San Diego, Petco Park, he had a very nice year at age 38. Now it is 3-0.
Looks like you're right.
You think I'm right?
Well, it seems to be.
Well, I think this Suppan was probably having nightmares last night about Piazza.
Well,
what if I have to face Piazza and there's lots of runners on?
Well, you know, I just think that it's early in the ball game, and again, the more people you put on base, the more chances they have of scoring. And they've been able to keep San Diego from scoring by going after him.
One of their best hitters is on deck. Just cut the outside with a slider at the knees. Mike Piazza hit one in San Diego against Suppan back on May 26th, and that one was an epic blast into the balcony up on the 3rd floor of the Western Metal Supply Company building. And that'll give you nightmares, Joe.
Well, the one thing they try to do is pitch Piazza inside. But on that particular pitch, it looked like Piazza was looking inside, opened up, and really crushed it.
And Suppan's got to be very careful here. First base is open.
There it is, inside again.
Breaking for the plate, Roberts, and he is out. And the ultimate storyline of this series could be being written right here in the top of the first inning.
Well, Suppan makes a great pitch. He jams Piazza, and Pujols has become one of the best defensive first basemen in the league, and he did not hesitate and made an accurate, very accurate throw to the plate. Easy tag for Molina. Look at that, perfect throw. You're out, Dave Roberts. But Roberts had to go. I mean, with one out, you have to send him on anything that's hit on the ground. Try to force the action. Just very poor execution of situational hitting by the Padres. It started with Giles. If Giles would have pulled the ball, they would have gotten a run, and Piazza would have been, they would have probably scored another run on Piazza. They'd have played him differently anyway. But I just don't think that, I think the key hitter in this at bat is always the guy up there with nobody out and runners in scoring position.
They had second and third and nobody out. There are 3, 4, 5 hitters coming up. Now first and third, 2 down, and their 5th place hitter up, but no runs have scored. The curveball too low.
Looked like he crossed him up or something. I mean, Molina caught that ball differently than he's been receiving the other ones.
Adrian Gonzalez, and he grew up in the San Diego area, born in San Diego. He's only 24 years old, and they acquired him from the Texas Rangers this past January, and what a trade it was. He had 24 homers, 82 batted in, and he's an excellent defensive player. Snap throw to first, look out, he's out, the inning is over. Yadier Molina to Albert Pujols, and the San Diego Padres disintegrate in a spot where they could have taken a nice early lead. So the Cardinals make a big mistake, and what a disaster for the Padres, but it happened earlier this year against the Cardinals. It ended a game May 27th. Look at this. Yadier Molina over to first base, and that was Brian Giles that got picked off, and that ended the game. So it's not as though they have not seen it before, Joe, from the Cardinals. Mike Piazza getting picked off. Yadier Molina, we said that he was a weapon behind that plate, and now he has demonstrated that. Here's the Cardinal batting order presented by Prestone. David Eckstein at short, then Chris Duncan in left, Albert Pujols, the great one, at first base. Jim Edmonds hits cleanup in center. Scott Rowland, very potent at third base. And as Eckstein takes a called strike from Chris Young, you also got Encarnacion in right, Ron Belliard hitting 7th at second. Yadier Molina, the catcher, and Jeff Suppan, the pitcher, against the tall right-hander, Chris Young. who drops a slider in the dirt for a ball. And Joe, it's not that Chris Young is throwing 98 miles an hour, but you'll often see guys swing at his fastball as if he is. There's something deceptive about that delivery.
Well, one thing deceptive, he's pretty tall and his release point is pretty high.
That's a bloop. Left field, base hit. Roberts hustles over to keep Eckstein to a single. So David Eckstein, the Cardinals igniter, gets him going.
Well, that's his first base hit of the series. He had been struggling as well. And he's playing with a lot of injuries as well. But this time of the year, a lot of guys have injuries or nagging injuries that are hampering them during the postseason. Well, we'll see how the Cardinals play it. As I said, I think Eckstein's got some nagging injuries, so he may not be running, but you would like to try to make things happen against Mike Piazza, who doesn't throw very well anymore.
That was a foul ball. None of this is going to matter. It was a foul ball.
And unlike last night when we confused what happened, that's the home plate umpire's call until the ball passes the bag. And Mike Piazza thought it was a fair ball. Adrian Gonzalez thought it was a fair ball. Now here comes Bruce Bochy. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to tell from this angle. Well, it's very close. I can't tell from the angle of the camera. The camera we're looking at is down the third baseline. It's not shooting right down the first baseline, so you can't make an accurate call.
Bochy's still out there arguing with Brian Gorman, the home plate umpire, who made that call.
And let's take a look at the Padres defensively, John. We've already mentioned Todd Walker in there for Barfield, but there's Adrian Gonzalez. This is his 149th start at first base this year. Yeah.
Adrian Gonzalez having an animated discussion with Greg Gibson, the first base umpire.
Well, the first base umpire was behind him. He's blocked anyway, but the home plate umpire is supposed to make that call.
And he did. So Duncan's still up there, nobody out. Eckstein at first. And the changeup, he swung at it. 0-2. Chris Young had a very fine season for the Padres, 11-5 and a 3.46 ERA. And he was very tough to hit. 179 in the third innings pitched, only 134 hits allowed. So opposing hitters had a batting average against him of only 206. And Joe, it seemed like every couple of weeks you'd read where Chris Young was working on a no-hitter into the seventh inning of a game. He carried one into the ninth inning in September. He never got a no-hitter, but I don't think there was any pitcher in baseball, named the top power pitchers, who carried no-hitters deep into games as many times as Young did.
So the one problem he has, he's a tall player. And he has to unwrap as he strikes out Duncan. It takes him a long time to get the ball to the plate.
This was against the Pirates in September. He got the first 2 outs in the ninth inning, or got within 2 outs. And then Joe Randa hit one about 421 feet. It was a home run. That was the first hit of the game. And the only hit allowed by Chris Young in that one. So a guy who flirted with no-hitters often this year, that was the closest he came. Here's Albert Pujols. And that slider is high for ball 1.
And this is one of the problems that the Padres have faced, and it's lucky, as I said, that for the Cardinals, in that they've had situations where you're just not going to walk Pujols and put him at first, move runners up. And when they pitch to him, he's been able to drive in runs and lead this offense.
A little high and tight there to Albert.
Well, I feel like sometime in this series and starting today, probably they're just not going to pitch to him. But in the first 2 games, they had situations where they couldn't just say, okay, go to first base. But I think now they're thinking maybe we should have been doing that.
Jim Edmonds on deck. Hits sharp to the right, but there's Giles. And back to first goes Eckstein. So
never
not
an
this time
easy
for
out.
Albert. Hit very hard. So Pujols retired out number 2.
It's a fastball away. You see it's right out there on the outside corner. He doesn't try to pull it, even though he's ahead in the count. He just reaches out and hammers it to right field. He just hit it too hard and hit it right at the right fielder, Giles.
Albert Pujols had 49 home runs and 137 RBIs, even though he was on the disabled list and missed 17 games in one stretch. And although Ryan Howard had the bigger home run and RBI numbers, Joe, and may win that MVP award, and it would be hard to argue that he shouldn't win it, but you could make a lot of compelling arguments for Albert Pujols as well.
Well, no one's more valuable to their team than Albert Pujols, but you can say the same thing about Ryan Howard. And earlier in the year I was kind of caught in between, and I was thinking because Howard might do something historic that he might win. I'm going to be honest with you, if I had a vote, I'd split it. That'd be exactly what I would do if I had a vote, which I don't. I don't get a vote, do I?
Well, that's why you don't get one. There goes Eckstein. The throw down by Piazza.
Yes.
And that's something that you'll always see with Piazza behind the plate. Teams will look to run.
Yeah, but he's also at a disadvantage because Young can't hold the runners either. And as I said before, it takes him a long time to deliver the ball. He even tries a slide step, but in his slide step, he pushes his arm back, and it takes his arm a long time to come forward. So you're really not accomplishing a lot. You're giving the guys plenty of time to run. So, I mean, even though Piazza didn't make a good throw, he really didn't have a real shot at throwing Eckstein out there. And as I mentioned, Eckstein's not running well, but Young cannot hold the runners. So if they want to run, they're going to be able to run.
Well, I was just wondering if you really knew what you were talking about. So I just did some checking, Joe.
Yeah.
There were 41 stolen bases with Young on the mound this year.
Well,
that was the most against any pitcher in the major leagues.
Well, I'm being honest with you. I'm just watching him, and I can see how long it takes him to get the ball to the plate.
You just always want to look out there and watch him.
Yeah, I don't need a statistic to tell me that this guy is slow to the plate, but it does help the people that may not see that. But I mean, really, you sit here and just watch him, and it just takes him a long time to deliver the ball.
Plus, Mike Piazza only threw out 12% of the runners who attempted to steal, no matter who was pitching. See, I was just watching Piazza.
Yeah.
I've seen better throws
but
than Piazza just made.
It's the same thing I was saying when Suppan was up there, though, and Molina behind the plate. You steal the base off of the pitcher. So, I mean, obviously sometimes the catcher can help you, but normally your idea that it should be is to steal the base off the pitcher.
Well, now they're going to walk Edmonds intentionally. There's ball 4, intentionally wide.
You don't see that too often with Scott Rowland, coming up. I might see him walk Albert Pujols to get to Scott Rowland, but I don't think that you see that very often where they would walk Edmonds to get to get to Rowland.
Well, the Cardinals, and Tony La Russa talked about this before the game, because Edmonds missed almost all of the last 2 months of the year.
Right.
And he said when he's in there, the dynamic in the lineup changes dramatically. Because for a long time, it was just really Pujols and Rowlands that the teams were really worried about. But now Rowlands, that's an extra worry with Edmonds sitting in front of him, and especially against right-handers because Edmonds is a lefty. And Edmonds also, as Tony pointed out, he improves the defense. He's a real center fielder and one of the best in the game. So Scott Rowland, 1 ball, no strikes, 2 men on, 2 men out. Wow. He just did not pick that one up. The breaking ball down and away. Rowland had 95 RBIs this year.
And you can see that ball never started in the strike zone.
Scott Rowland looked a little over anxious on that one. 296 average, 22 homers, 48 doubles. And he got jammed on that fastball, fouling it back into the crowd. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The Cardinals with Eckstein at second. He singled and stole second. Edmonds at first. He walked with an intentional ball 4 being delivered. And then the Cardinals trying to do what the Padres could not do. It would have been better for the Cardinals if just the 3 guys would have just struck out. They had second and third, nobody out, because that inning just disintegrated into a quagmire.
And make no mistake about it, that really does something to your psyche when you have the opportunities and you haven't been able to score anyway. and you get the jump here. The first thing they were talking about, I guarantee in the clubhouse today, is, hey, we need to jump out on top once. Let's see them come from behind. And they had the opportunity to do so and just could not get the job done.
Dave Roberts got him going with a base hit. Ended up at third with nobody out, but they could not score. Now they're hoping that their young right-hander, the 6', 10-inch tall Chris Young, can get out of this jam. 2 on, 2 out. And the high slider, and Roland chased it. So Roland obviously was not seeing the ball well out of the hand of. No score. As you see, we're in the Cardinals neighborhood here today. The beautiful new downtown ballpark of the Cardinals, right next door to where the old Busch Stadium was. And if you are not here, maybe you could see it in your mind's eye, or maybe in the reflections of the guy's glasses sitting next to you. Here is Adrian Gonzalez, and a foul off the left field line facing Jeff Suppan. Gonzalez was at the plate, but Piazza got picked off by Yadier Molina to end that first inning. And Joe, not only should the Padres of all teams have seen that coming because it happened against them before to end a game, Yadier Molina picked off 7 guys off the base paths this year and 16 the last 2 years. That's the most in the major leagues of any catcher, Pudge Rodriguez included.
Well,
changeup, foul tip.
John, what you do is, Andy Pettitte had a great pickoff move. You know that. So you just play the game accordingly. And you have to do the same thing when there's a catcher behind the plate that throws to the bases a lot. The reason you shouldn't get picked off at first base is because as soon as the ball passes the hitter, you start back. And when you do that, he can't pick you off, whether that's at second base or any base. If you start back, you take your lead, you crow hop out there, and as soon as the ball passes the hitter, you start back. There's no way he can pick you off.
Now, that being the case, and you can't dispute that, I mean, nobody knows base running better than you do.
Well, they may, but I know that.
689 stolen bases. I'm going with you. Yeah. Or maybe Ricky Henderson. He stole more.
But I mean, if you start back, they can't pick you off.
I'm a front runner.
All right. All right.
1-2 the count, and a slider low and inside for a ball. 2-2. But there's another aspect to it, because that runner was Mike Piazza. 38 years old, catcher's legs, late in the season, and he's not bouncing back too well right now.
I understand that, John, but the way to run the bases, whether you're 38, 28, or 8, when the ball passes the catcher, you start back, and they can't pick you off. It's a very simple thing. I was taught that, when I first got, into professional baseball. When the ball passes the hitter. Now watch, you'll see. I bet you he's not starting back. I haven't even seen it yet. He's not starting back. Look at that. He's not starting back when the ball passes the catcher, the hitter. If the ball passes the hitter and you start back, they can't pick you off.
So the catcher has it, jumps up, cocks the arm.
Now you start back.
And then you start back.
You're going to be out.
Okay.
Yeah, too late. But if it passes the hitter and you start back, you cannot get picked off.
Curveball outside. 3-2 to Adrian Gonzalez.
Now watch, when he stops, he should start as soon as the ball passes. See, now he should already be starting back. Look where he's still going that way. And so he's out easily. And again, I understand you're saying he's not the quickest of base runners, but see, to be a good base runner doesn't mean you have to have great speed. It just means you have to know what you're doing and adhere to it.
A changeup. Strike 3 swinging. 3 balls, 2 strikes, and a changeup. Nasty pitch.
Let's take a look at this pitch. As you said, 3-2. He's looking for something that he can hammer, and Suppan takes something off, and you can see he was out in front.
So 1 away. Here is Mike Cameron, powerful right-handed hitter facing Jeff Suppan. The Padres bat day alive for another day here in St. Louis. If they win today, there'll be a game 4 here tomorrow. By the way, Joe, in the catching fraternity, because catchers are a breed apart.
Correct.
They get beat up, they get broken bones, they got contusions, abrasions, and crooked fingers, everything. What about the etiquette of one catcher picking off another catcher? That just doesn't seem right somehow, does it?
Well, in the postseason, it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, you're trying to get to the World Series.
All right, so if this was back in June,
middle of June, they say, okay,
they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll let it go. But now you're trying to get to the postseason. Every out's an important out. Every pitch is an important pitch. So,
all right, so etiquette's just being out the window. All right.
Yeah.
1 ball, 2 strikes to Cameron.
See, because he picked Giles off. Remember, we showed that early in the year. That's okay, because he's not a member of the fraternity.
Giles should know better.
Yeah,
hey.
yeah.
He's a right fielder. He just stands out there waiting for a fly ball every once in a while.
I didn't make that point at that time, but I guarantee you, if you'd watch when they picked Giles off, he wasn't headed back to first base when the ball passes the hitter.
2-2 the count, and I give our crew and their research efforts a lot of credit for having that pickoff back in May.
You made a point of that yesterday about how difficult it was for our guys to get to certain places, but the last, they have really risen to the occasion of the postseason with some of the shots we've seen and how we followed the game, and they showed things that, are just extraordinary. So you have to tip our hat to our crews the last few days, especially ones we've been working with, and all the others as well.
I mean, we just pop in, we take a shower, comb our hair, put a tie on. That ball is hit well left center field, and Duncan's going to have to chase it. It hits right off the base of the wall, and the carom comes out to Jim Edmonds, the center fielder. It's a double for Cameron, who really walloped that one.
Duncan took a little funny route to that one too, John. I'm not sure he's seeing the ball well out there. We saw one that he missed, and this one, if you watch the angle that he takes, he's going across, and that ball is hit very deep. And watch, he's going across, and then he tries to get back. He took the wrong angle again. I mean, he couldn't have caught that ball because it was hit so hard, but I don't know if he's seeing the ball well off the bat out there. And it is, the sun is shining out that way. I don't know if it's coming right over the top of the stadium or not.
Yeah. And at the best of times, Duncan is still a first baseman learning how to play the outfield at the big league level.
And if he wants to play for the Cardinals, he better learn, because he's never going to play first base.
Here's Branyan. Now Duncan shading the eyes, and Jim Edmonds very helpfully comes over and takes charge on that one, because Duncan was having a tough time with that one too.
That's one of those let the sure man have it. That's what they say out there.
2 SEC East rivals collide. It's Tennessee, the Volunteers of Tennessee. Old Rocky Top against the Georgia Bulldogs. They'll be button heads on college football primetime tonight at 7:45 on ESPN. It'll be down and dirty in those trenches, Joe.
Well, I didn't play football, John, so I don't know anything about the trenches.
Well, that's the whole reason why I always thought that Joe Morgan, he is an intelligent person.
All right.
Because you were an excellent baseball player.
And we're smart enough not to get in the trenches.
You focused on that instead of going out there and risking your body in football.
Tell you a funny story. I was a pretty good football player younger, but my mom didn't want me to play, and I'm glad I listened to her.
Yeah, and you went and got your college degree.
Well, she wanted me to do that too, so.
You were a very good son. All right, so the walk to Jeff Blum. He was 9 for 16 lifetime against Jeff Suppan. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Aaron Andrews is here with us. And again, we just wanted to salute all of our crew members. And ordinarily, we don't do this. They do their job. Yeah. They're professionals. And we appreciate it, but we just let it go. But last night in Detroit, that crew, they were, planes, trains, automobiles, canoes, buses to get from New York after a day game on Thursday. Some of them didn't even get to Detroit until 4 o'clock in the morning. And we have some of our crew members even here in St. Louis today, just a few hours after we were in Detroit last night. Now look at that man.
Yeah, look at him, Ish, with his glasses.
Yeah. You wouldn't know it. He hadn't slept in 4 days. Of course, with him, that's what's the difference? It could be any time. 0-2 the count to Chris Young. But you're looking very dapper and very sprightly and wide awake today.
Actually, I feel great. I really do. And I tell you, I've always told you this. Playoff baseball gets my adrenaline flowing. I don't drink coffee anyway, but I don't need it with postseason play.
Curveball too low to Chris Young.
Now you catch me in August or somewhere around there, I might need a cup of coffee, but I don't need anything for
you
this.
were dragging in August. That's why we sent you off to.
Let's say the dog days of August and September.
That's when we sent you to Williamsport to do the Little League World Series, just to kick back a little bit.
You're right, because this is the first time I've been to this ballpark. I missed it.
He struck him out. The Padres have had 4 base runners the first 2 innings, no runs. Juan Encarnacion will be coming up for St. Louis. She's right where she always is, right there in the heart of the sports universe, with her finger on the pulse of everything that's going on.
And John, you were mentioning the crew last night, but we also had, the pleasure of having the great Ernie Harwell in the booth with us.
Yeah.
And remember, he talked about Bob Gibson being the greatest clutch pitcher he'd ever seen. Well, guess what? Guess who threw out the first ball today here? Bob Gibson threw out the first ball here to start this playoff game for the St. Louis Cardinals.
And Bob Gibson, whose number is retired, commemorated on the left field wall here at the brand new Busch Stadium. Bob Gibson, who always had that angry looking stare on his face, a glare when he looked in for the pitch. And he said to me, Joe, said, guys always thought I was trying to intimidate him, that I was glaring at them. He said, I had very poor eyesight, and I was having a hard time. I was squinting, trying to read the signs from the catcher. I couldn't see it that well.
And you believe that, right? Okay.
There's Gibby.
And now, see, if he'd have pitched with those glasses on, I wouldn't have mind. See, he wouldn't have been staring you down with those glasses on. But I tell you what, if you believe that he wasn't trying to intimidate you or whatever, I always use the expression, I said, when I used to look out at Bob Gibson and he'd look back at you, his eyes were telling you, you can't hit me. That was Bob Gibson. Okay. That was that stare. That's what I saw in that stare. I didn't see him trying to find the sign.
No, he just had bad eyesight, Joe.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Ron Belliard, as you see Chris Young get the side. And right to second base. Todd Walker throws out Belliard. Quickly 2 down on the Cardinals' second inning. No score in the game. Suppan has been in trouble in each of the first 2 innings for the Cardinals. But Chris Young got out of a jam in the first. Here's Tony La Russa. And the Cardinals are getting used to being here. They've won 3 straight Central Division titles. This year, their offense was down a little bit. They had some injuries. And their pitching was way down. They're usually right at the top of the league in pitching. And it is 0-1. Molina swings and misses.
When they were in the World Series a couple of years ago against Boston, I mean, I thought that they had such a good ball club, defensively, offensively, running the bases, everything. I don't think this ball club's as good as that ball club, but I don't think the competition is as good either as what they faced during that stretch.
Well, the National League as a group had kind of a down year. Now, the New York Mets, I think the Mets, they still could win it all, although it's going to be real tough if they make it to the World Series against the American League champion without 2 of their best pitchers.
Right.
That's the time they'll really need those guys, if not sooner.
I think the Mets were head and shoulders, above the rest in the National League when they had all their players. They had a lot of injuries as well.
They really hardly ever had all their players this year.
Right. They had to cope with a lot. But they end up with the best record in the league. But, I mean, if you had Pedro, Orlando, El Duque, Hernandez going out there, Glavine, then you say, hey, we can match up against anyone. Traxel, they've got a good team. They just do not have the stars that they had. Molina
down on strikes. It's an 8-pitch inning for Chris Young. On to the 3rd. Top of the order coming up. Dave Roberts for the Padres. Baseball here on ESPN2 today. The Padres trying to stay alive in this National League Division Series. No score as we head to the 3rd inning in the shadows of the Gateway Arch along the shores of the mighty Mississippi here in St. Louis. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan. Aaron Andrews also here. And Dave Roberts takes the ball inside. Roberts got something started in that first inning with a single to left. He ended up at third base with nobody out, but they never scored a run. Just a devastating inning for the Padres. Had second and third, nobody out, and their big hitters up, and they couldn't get anybody home. 1 ball, 1 strike to Roberts. It's October. It's a college football Saturday around the country. And here in St. Louis, it's October baseball, but the stands would remind you of some of those college football venues. Marty Aronoff, Joe, who's always in a stadium somewhere every day, our great statistician, says it kind of reminds him of a Saturday at University of Nebraska or maybe in Oklahoma.
That red.
All the red out there, yeah. Which is a very familiar sight for Cardinals home games. Same in the old ballpark here. People dress up in the colors. A ball and 2 strikes to Dave Roberts. Roberts, while all around him have been slumping, he's 4 for 9 in this series. And that's kind of surprising, Joe, because he's the guy that gets things started. Usually when he's on base, then they are scoring runs. And he's been on base a lot.
Well, he got around the 3rd with no one out in the 1st inning and couldn't score. So it just seems that the people behind him are not picking him up, obviously.
The Padres have not had a hit with a runner in scoring position in this series. 0 for 14 in the 3 games, including 0 for 4 in the first 2 innings today. That doesn't even tell half the story. They could have gotten a couple of runs in that 1st inning without getting any hits. That little soft ground ball, Pujols, and that was Suppan covering. He dropped the ball.
Well, it was a tough play for both Pujols and for Suppan. In fact, I think they should give him a base hit because both of them executed it as well as you could. Dave Roberts can fly down the line. Pujols had to throw it a little quicker than he wanted. Suppan had to try to catch it. It was a tough catch there. Tough throw, tough catch. He's reaching back behind him because he's trying to stay ahead of Roberts. Off balance throw by Pujols hits him in the chest. It would have been, he made a good throw, but it's just a tough play to make, running and trying to find the bag at the same time. I think they did give him a base hit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It should have been scored a base hit.
And Dave Roberts is on base again. Here's Todd Walker. They put a hit and run on with Roberts aboard in the 1st inning, and Walker lined one to left field that was missed by Chris Duncan for a 2-base error.
See, as you mentioned that Dave Roberts, a protege of Maury Wills, he's standing at first base now, and he's not worried about the fact that Molina throws well. I know Maury Wills passed that along to him. It doesn't matter who's catching. You have to get a better jump on the pitcher, and I want you to get that jump, and then you take off. That's what you do as a base stealer.
Well, he had some similarities to Maury. I mean, the size, number one.
Yeah.
But also a career minor leaguer. I think for Roberts, it was at least 8 years in the minor leagues, much like Maury's plight before he got to the big leagues. But when Dave Roberts went to the Dodgers, Maury Wills became his teacher. And before every Dodger home game, they'd be out on the field before anybody else, and they'd be working on bunting. Then they'd be working on base stealing. Sometimes it was a classroom where Maury would just talk to him about all the various aspects of base stealing. But 2 years ago, when Roberts had gone to the Red Sox and he stole that big base against Mariano Rivera, which I thought was the play that turned that whole series around.
Definitely.
Aaron Andrews talked about it earlier. Maury Wills said that he called Roberts the next day and said, when you stole that base, it was as if I was out there myself. So they were still very close, and Maury was so proud of him. They get one at second, and they get the double play.
Excellent play by Suppan there. He not only made an accurate throw, but he got it there very quickly with something on it, which allowed Eckstein to stay away from Dave Roberts. So an excellent play there by Suppan. And watch how quickly he gets the second way. One step and throw, and look at that, fires it accurately, and it turns out to be an easy double play. But it wasn't easy. He made it look easy. Great play there by Suppan.
So, because even at that, they only got Walker by a step at first base.
And Roberts was closing in. If he didn't fire it to second, Roberts would have been right on top of Eckstein.
Now Brian Giles with 2 down and nobody on. Ball 1.
Greg Maddux, who's pitching later today, has won a lot of Gold Gloves. Those are the types of plays that he makes, and he's going to be pitching later today. But those are Gold Glove type plays that some pitchers make.
Shallow center field. Eckstein calling for it. Backpedaling. That's the inning. A leadoff hit by Roberts, then nothing. And that's been pretty much the series for the Padres so far. Nothing. Here we go now. The Cardinals with pitcher Jeff Suppan at the plate. And he takes strike one call from Chris Young. Suppan and the leadoff man, David Eckstein, and Chris Duncan. No score in the third, although it looked bad for Suppan right at the very beginning of that first inning as he takes a curve, strike two. Remember, he had second and third and nobody out. And the Padres with their 3, 4, 5 hitters coming up. And somehow he got out of that jam, Joe. And that might be the key to this whole game, although it's still scoreless. It's still anybody's game. But that was an opportunity where the Padres were set up to score, and they just had to score something.
Well, obviously, he helped himself by pitching well in that jam, but the Padres helped him a lot too, John. I mean, the inability of the Padres to execute, you know, just pulling the ball to the right side or hitting the ball on the ground to score a run, that was part Padres as well.
Suppan with a foul ball. And kicked off foul just in front of the bag. Suppan was off and running. He wanted an infield hit on that one. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, they got out of that jam, and man, it was set up for the Padres where you thought, well, this is just what they need to get a big break. Duncan loses the ball. He seemed to lose it. He never seemed to get a glove on him on a line drive to him. And they get a gift, 2 bases, and have runners at second and third, nobody out. And in that situation, as you pointed out, you could score so many ways without even getting a hit, and they didn't score anybody.
And that's that old situational hitting thing we talk about all the time. And hitting coaches talk to the players, and the managers talk to the players about situational hitting. You know, it's not always the base hits you have to help the team. Just executing, and as they say, making a productive out.
Down on strikes, Jeff Suppan, and there is one away. Well, let's go back to that first inning. And Brian Giles was up with runners at second and third, and he hit one right back to the pitcher.
Anywhere else on the infield, they would have scored a run.
Then Piazza and Albert Pujols with a daring throw home, and he got Dave Roberts second out. And then with Gonzalez up there, Piazza caught wandering, and the inning ended on a pickoff. They added insult to the injury there. Albert Pujols 5 for 9 in this series. He's knocked in 3 times as many runs as the Padres have scored as a team. Eckstein, deep left center. Cameron, one of the best in the business, runs it down. That ball heads out to the gap, and you're thinking, wow, it could be extra bases. Then you realize, wait a minute, Cameron's out there.
He closes the gap as good as anyone out there. I mean, he is an excellent outfielder. That ball was hit. I said, that's a double. But look out, I mean, he makes it look easy almost. He was playing Eckstein the other way and just took off and made it look easy.
I used to love it when Cameron was in the American League in Seattle, and we get a Sunday night game with Seattle and Minnesota, and we'd watch Torrey Hunter and Mike Cameron because they're maybe the 2 best center fielders in the game.
And they wanted to impress each other as well.
Yeah. Of course, here in St. Louis, you can't talk about center fielders without talking about Jim Edmonds. I think the 2 of them maybe beat Edmonds out just because they have more speed than Edmonds.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they can cover the gaps a little bit better. But Jim Edmonds gets, you know, he runs the ball down well. He's very good. And of course, you know, in this National League, Andrew Jones is still running around in the Atlanta outfield.
Yeah.
So you're right. A lot of good center fielders in this league and in the American League.
And Andrew is out hitting all the rest of them too.
Yeah.
Still a great defensive player. That's Giles. So Duncan hit that one hard, but into and out. Another quick inning for Chris Young. He's doing his part. Piazza coming up, no score. John Miller with Joe Morgan and Aaron Andrews. And we're at Busch Stadium, the new Busch Stadium here in St. Louis, on a beautiful day. What a day, Joe. What a day to be out of doors, and what a day to be at a big postseason baseball game. The ideal setting.
That's one of the great things about divisional play, John, is you get a lot of day games. You get day games mixed in. Whereas when you get to the LCS and the World Series, you're all, you know, everything's a night game. So
here's Piazza. First ball swinging, and there's Belliard. Hit sharply by Piazza, but Belliard tracked it down. Piazza is 0 for 2. Now let's go down to Aaron Andrews. Aaron?
Well, John, you and Joe have been talking about how the Padres need to get their bats going. Actually, I was speaking to Mike Piazza, who said the team was incredibly laid back heading into this Game 3. The reason why, he said, is they take a lot of confidence in the fact that they hit so well away. Unfortunately, Mike Piazza would have liked to have gotten a hit on that. He said also this team knows a lot about coming back, and that's something that they did all season long. He kept using the word resilient, but he also mentioned it's going to take more than one guy because we don't have a superstar on this team. We need everyone to get it going today, guys. We'll see if that laid-back mentality keeps it up.
I'm not into laid back personally, John, but I understand what he's talking about.
Well, as the curveball is in there to Adrian Gonzalez for a strike, it's interesting to say we don't have a superstar in this club coming from a guy who is a superstar.
Well, he was a superstar. He knows that he can no longer be the guy on a ball club anymore. And I mean, it's one of these days, Albert Pujols, who is the superstar, it'll happen to him. I mean, that's the nature of the game. You can only, you have great productive years, but at some point your skills start to decline a little bit. And as good as Albert Pujols is, one of these days he's not going to be as good a hitter as he is today.
Adrian Gonzalez struck out his first time. He's the Padres' leading home run hitter, 24 homers. And he had 82 runs batted in. And really, he ended up playing out of necessity because Ryan Klesko got hurt.
Yeah.
And Gonzalez took the position over, and even had Klesko come back earlier, he was not going to move Gonzalez out of first base because he's just too good all around. He's one of the better defensive players you'll see at first base too. So he's got a base hit with one out. Ryan Klesko activated for this postseason and in the dugout. And Joe, it's a very sad day in baseball today, even as we celebrate the game with postseason play, because one of the great people in baseball, the first African-American coach in Major League history, and Buck O'Neil passed away. 19 years in the old Negro Leagues. He was a batting champion 2 different times. He led the effort to establish the Negro League Museum, and he was a great spokesman for the game of baseball as well as for the living history of the old Negro Leagues and the way it was before Jackie Robinson integrated Major League Baseball.
Yeah, well, we all know how great a person Jackie Robinson was because he was more in the spotlight. Well, Buck O'Neil was along the same lines as Jackie Robinson in that he was just one of those great human beings that have a special impact on anyone that he meets. Forgetting baseball, outside of baseball, anywhere, Buck O'Neil had an impact on everyone that he met, and the people, loved him, and he was just a very special individual. I mean, I hear people all the time, and they're not even baseball fans, talk about the one time they saw Buck O'Neil or the one time they heard him speak. I mean, he was just one of those unique individuals, and we lost a good friend and just, a great human being.
Well, Buck O'Neil was he was an eloquent spokesman for the game, and always emphasized the game. Even his autobiography, because I asked him many times, you asked him, everybody asked him many times about the fact that he was not allowed to play in the major leagues. Was there bitterness? Was there anger over that? But the name of his autobiography was I Was Right on Time.
Right.
He said he would not exchange the memories he had on those teams, even though there were so many players, himself included, that should have been in the big leagues. He said he would not have exchanged it because they had a great time and they're doing what they loved. And he could speculate about what it might have been like to be in the big leagues, but he said he had such a great time that he just could not have bitterness about being excluded.
I told you, John, when I was in college, I did my thesis on the Negro Leagues because I wanted to know who these guys were, read about them, know about them. And in doing that, I always had this feeling of guilt personally that I got to play in the major leagues and they didn't. And when I got a chance to meet Buck O'Neil, Satchel Paige, all those great Negro League players, they made me understand they didn't miss anything. They loved the game, they played the game together, and they enjoyed what they were doing. They would only wanted to play in the major leagues to prove that they could play there. Not it was something that was burning that they wanted to get there. They just wanted to prove to the people that they could play there. because they said that they enjoyed what they did. They loved playing together. They had great times together, and that's what their life was all about. So, being honest with you, he helped me to really get over that guilt that I had, and I really did have that, knowing that a lot of those guys may have been better players than I was, but they didn't get a chance to play, and I did. So Buck was, as you said, he was very close with me, and he was just a great individual.
And here now is Russell Branyan, 2 men on after the walk to Mike Cameron. An opportunity here for the Padres as Branyan takes ball 1 from Jeff Suppan. No score in the 4th inning. Well, the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown undertook a noble venture, and they spent a lot of time and effort in doing the research and putting together a committee to bring in more worthy Hall of Famers who were from the old Negro Leagues. That the record keeping, the statistic keeping, and all that was not the same as it was in the big leagues. So a lot of research had to be done to get the full record, and yet it is so sad today. Buck O'Neil passes away because he was bypassed for the Hall of Fame, and a lot of people feel that that's an injustice. That Buck O'Neil was very deserving of being there, and if not as a player, certainly in the category of someone who was made great contributions to the game, and there are very few who have made more contributions to this game than Buck O'Neil.
Well, it was a great endeavor, and it was a great undertaking. It is sad that it didn't work as well as it should have.
Buck O'Neil passed away today at age 94, and while we mourn his passing, he will be long remembered in any ballpark that you go into around the country. And if you go to Kansas City, then be sure and stop by the Negro League Museum, which he helped create.
And you're right, it is a great experience to go through the museum.
Dave Roberts looking on from the dugout. His Padres in a 0-0 tie, but in the series they are down 2-0. They will be eliminated if they can't win this ball game. I always remember what Terry Francona told us, Joe, 2 years ago when his Red Sox were down 3-0 in the best-of-7 series with the Yankees, because we said that nobody's ever won 4 in a row after being down 3-0 in the best-of-7 in history. And he said, well, that's not what we have to do. All we have to do is win today. And he says, I told that to my players.
And that's the great thing about baseball, John. There's no clock. They can't run out on you. Nothing can run out on you. All you have to do is win that game today, and you won't be eliminated. That was the point, and I think that's what the Padres have to think about. Win the game today, we will not be eliminated.
Because it looks like impossible odds winning 3 in a row, but they only have to win today. That's a base hit down the right field line, and finally, for the first time in 3 games, somebody comes through in the clutch for the Padres. Scoring is Gonzalez. Cameron's going to be waved home. Now breaking for third is Branyan. It's a weak throw, and he makes it to third. Ronnie Belliard, he might have hit a soft spot out there in the outfield as he tried to make that throw. He gets up slowly and is limping a bit, as he had a clear chance to throw out Branyan going to third. So Branyan knocks in 2. The Padres lead 2-0.
Well, he slipped. He got a good pitch to hit, a changeup down, and Branyan rips it down the line. Cameron had to make sure Pujols didn't catch it. You see, he gets a late break there, but he's still able to score. Good play in right field to get the ball back in by Encarnacion. And you see Belliard, I think what happened, Pujols was in his way when he first wanted to throw, and then when he stepped aside, he slipped trying to make the throw to third. And you may be right, he may have strained a little something, or at least he's a little bit more uncomfortable out there, and he's asking where they want him to play. I think that would be a double. I don't know how they scored, a double, or did they give him a triple?
Well, they gave him a double.
Yeah, a double.
And they said he went to third on the throw, except the throw went to third.
I know.
That's got to be a triple, doesn't it? The infield comes in now for Blum. Blum has 9 hits in 16 lifetime at-bats against Jeff Suppan. Now, if they're going to get more here, Blum is the key.
Right.
He's going to have to do it. You got the pitcher, Young, up next.
Well, this is one of those situations where you say to yourself, I have to keep the ball on the infield if I'm going to pitch to Blum.
Blum's been a tough out over the years for Suppan. Fastball inside.
And see, the other problem here is you say, I'll go ahead and walk Blum. Well, if you do that and then Chris Young bunts him over, then you have to face Dave Roberts with 2 men in scoring position. So those are the choices you have right now. Because if he walks Blum, I guarantee you they're going to bunt Chris Young and move one more run into scoring position.
Tagging at third is Branyan. It's medium right field. Encarnacion. The throw cut off by Pujols, and no chance to get Branyan at the plate. And so the job is done by Blum. 3-0 San Diego.
Well, Encarnacion was trying to set himself to get in position to throw, and it seemed to me like the wind was moving the ball a little bit, and when he caught it, he wasn't in as good a position as he was trying to get in. I mean, watch now, he's trying to time it so he can get himself in the right position, but then he ends up having to go more to his right, and then the ball took off a little bit, and he caught it high over his head instead of right in front of him.
They made a throw to third base there, appealing that Branyan left too soon from third base. Rolen took the throw, but third base umpire Marty Foster said, no, that didn't happen. He left, as Buck O'Neill once said, right on time. 3-0. The Cardinals are trailing now, and all of the things that have gone so poorly for the Padres in this series, for the first time, they've done them well in this inning. Russell Branyan got the big hit, the one they'd been lacking in the series until this inning.
Well, they have 5 base hits, and the Cardinals actually only 1 base hit. But one of the things that San Diego has done all year long is they've hit better on the road than they did in Petco Park.
That is called strike 3 to Young. The inning is over, but the Padres get 3 on 2 hits. Now, the big guns are coming up for the Cardinals. Pujols, Edmonds, and Rolen. When we come back, I'm taking the cure at the new Busch Stadium here today. And the San Diego Padres doing something that they have not done before in this postseason, nor in many recent postseasons. That's take a lead. They had not had a lead in any of their last 6 postseason games, but now they are affecting change. 3 runs in the 4th, and they lead 3-0 as Albert Pujols takes ball 1. The big guys are up. The Cardinals try and come right back here with Pujols, Edmonds, and Rolen against Chris Young. Trying to curve him, misses badly high. 2-0. Pujols drilled one, but right to the right fielder his first time, so he is 0 for 1.
John, Albert Pujols has the highest career batting average in postseason among active players with 75 plate appearances or more. He's hitting .352. Guess you wouldn't guess. Troy Gloss is second at .347. Darren Erstad is third at .339. And we also have a couple of guys in this game who are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Mike Cameron has the lowest batting average career, but he got a base hit today. He had 181, and Scott Rowland was 186. So that tells you why they walked Jim Edmonds to get to Scott Rowland in an earlier situation. So we have the best hitter and 2 of the lowest batting averages.
Curveball in the dirt, and that's Joe Morgan.
Looking at statistics, man.
Not reporting just the one positive, but trying to give a balanced report.
Yeah.
So to say we have this in this game, but on the flip side, there's the other aspect of it. But Mike Cameron, at least, has started to turn that around. He's had a double and a walk today. 3-2 to Pujols. Oh, look at that. That was a great pitch. Hard slider, struck him out. He couldn't check in time.
Well, that's one of those situations where Pujols may have started thinking a little too much. He said, well, first base is open. I'm leading off the inning. They have a 3-run lead. As we see, the first 2 pitches not even close. He gets the call on the 3rd one. He fouls that one. Ball. And now watch this one. He thinks he may get another fastball, tries to check his swing, and he could not. Again, in a normal situation, unless you're Albert Pujols, 3-run lead, you're not going to walk the leadoff man.
Jim Edmonds, the breaking ball, strike.
But they know that if they pitch to Pujols, it may not be 3-0 very long.
Well, that was some great pitching by Young.
Well, it was a great location on the 3-2 pitch because it started in the strike zone, and then it broke out.
Albert Pujols hit 49 home runs this year and struck out 50. I mean, usually the home run hitters also have big strikeout totals. Not the case with Albert. Jim Edmonds strikes out. 2 down, and this is very impressive by Young. The big guys are up. He strikes out both Pujols and Edmonds, and now Rolen will take a chance.
Well, it's amazing what a 3-run lead can do for you when you've been struggling. And there's another perfect pitch right on the edge. If nothing else, we see what K-Zone really shows you, John, is how difficult it can be to hit major league pitching sometimes. When they can throw a ball 90 miles an hour plus right on the edge, it's very difficult to handle those pitches. And we saw that, especially, in the Yankee series with Verlander, Zumaya, those guys throwing 100 plus and getting the ball on the edge. They weren't throwing 100 in the middle of the plate. They were throwing it on the edges. And then we saw the opposite of that last night with Kenny Rogers changing speeds and getting it right on the edge. So that's the great thing about K-Zone. It shows you exactly how difficult it is to hit major league pitching and why.
A ball and a strike to Scott Rolen. 2 down, nobody on. Rolen struck out his first time. 6 strikeouts for Young already. And back to the screen. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Rolen in division series play. You mentioned that he's not done well in the postseason in general. He's only had 4 hits in 26 at bats in division series play.
John, I remember when I used to face J.R. Richards, and he's all over the place, 6'6" and whatever, and the ball's coming from all different angles. And I think that's the similar problem they have with Young here, because he's so tall, and it's like he's unravels, and you still have to find the ball. And I think that's one of the reasons that he's so effective. And you were talking about this earlier. You said he doesn't throw that hard, but hitters swing at it like he's throwing hard. And that's the reason they have difficulty picking up the ball at the right spot. Picking it up right at his release point, because the objective of hitting is to be able to see the ball right out of his hand immediately.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, at 90 miles an hour, it might as well have been 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Young has retired 10 in a row. We're heading to the 5th inning, the top of the order coming up with the Padres. And in 6 foot 10 inch tall Chris Young, he's only allowed 1 hit. That was to the first man he faced. None since against this potent Cardinals lineup. And we're very pleased now to be joined by pitching coach Darren Balsley of the Padres. Darren, welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Darren, I'd like to know, since they haven't had another hit since the first inning, is it difficult to pick the ball up from the pitcher's, release point?
It is with Chris. He's so tall, and he throws the old-fashioned 4-seamer. Gets a lot of backspin on it, and even though he's only throwing 88 to 90 right around there, it looks a lot harder to the hitters.
Hey, Darren, if you guys can win this ball game today, and you have a 3-run lead, who's going to go for you tomorrow in Game 4?
Honestly, we're not sure yet. We'll have to make that decision after the ball game, but we got to get this one first.
Okay. Well, so we're not going to let you get ahead of yourself then. You're not going to let us get you ahead of yourself.
Not yet.
Darren, many thanks.
Okay, guys, thanks.
All right.
That was an interesting question, John, because I think this series is a little different than what we saw with, say, even the Cardinals at the end of the season.
There's a curve in the dirt to Dave Roberts, ball 1.
And by that, remember, Tony La Russa didn't pitch Chris Carpenter on the final day of the season.
Yeah.
Even though he had a lead. He has a lead here. Even if he loses today, he'll still have the lead. I think this is a little different. I think you'll see Tony La Russa pitch Chris Carpenter, because you're trying to get this series over with. Whereas at the end of the season, he had 2 shots to get into the play, to the divisional play.
Yeah. Or even 3 shots.
3 shots, maybe, yeah. But the point is, this, you don't have 3 shots. So I think if the Cardinals lose this ball game, you will probably see Chris Carpenter. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Padres countered with Peavy, Jake Peavy.
And this is the one series every year. There's always one and there's an extra day off built in.
Yeah.
So both Peavy and Carpenter, the Game 1 starters, could come back on their normal 4 days of rest in Game 4. Any other series, Game 4 would have to be short rest if you came back with your Game 1 starter.
Right.
2-1 the count to Dave Roberts, who's had 2 base hits, and he's got 3 base hits. Duncan over to play the hop. But Dave Roberts keeps setting them up in this ball game, and is now 6 for 11 in this series. 3-0. The Padres ahead in the top of the 5th, and the batter will be Todd Walker. The Padres are trying to do something here, down 2-0. That's come back and do it. And Joe, it has been done. It's been done 7 different times where teams were down 2-0 and to come back to win anyway. Red Sox have done it a couple of times. The Padres did it. Sorry, Cubs fans, to bring up a bad memory of 1984.
You had to include the Cubs in there, right?
Yeah, everybody thought we're going to have a World Series at Wrigley Field back in '84, and it just didn't happen. Todd Walker has been safe on the error by the left fielder Chris Duncan, and he is also grounded into a double play. The Cardinal bullpen is busy. So Walker trying to move Dave Roberts up. Roberts has not stolen a base so far in this one, and he has to dive back to the bag.
You know, Dave has a big lead at first base.
That's Josh Hancock, the right-hander, up in the Cardinal bullpen.
And he has some similarities to, as you mentioned, Maury Wills, other than just stature. He kind of opens his front side a little bit. His right leg is angled a little bit towards second base.
He's going. They pitch out. And double clutch. He steals it. It's into center field. He's going to third. Edmonds throws to third. Not in time. Yadier Molina threw out 44% of the would-be base stealers this year. But even on a pitch out, he had a hard time getting a grasp on that one.
Well, watch Dave Roberts. See how his foot is turned a little bit towards second base? Well, what that does is it allows you, see right there, it just turns and goes. You don't have to pivot completely. But guess what? The reason Molina throws this ball away, he bobs at first, but he realizes he may not get Roberts anyway. And I don't think he was going to get him anyway, John. He had such a good jump. I don't think he was going to be able to get him. See, one of the things you should do on a pitch out is rush the ball to the plate a little bit. And they didn't do that. I don't think he was going to throw Roberts out. He had a great jump.
Now the infield comes in for Walker. Well, he hits the ground ball on a 2-0 count, Joe.
I mean, situational hitting is, you know, what the game is all about. Knowing what you have to do in certain situations. If you can't get that ball in the air, 2-0, there's no reason to swing at it. And you see, reach for it, and he rolls his top hand over. So you got to give Suppan credit. He didn't just throw one down the middle. But as a hitter, you have to make sure 2-0, I get a ball that I can either drive or at least, you know, get in the air or take the pitch. I mean, you don't have to swing at that pitch just because it's 2-0.
Now Giles, the infield stays in the dirt and blocked by Molina. The first inning they had second and third and nobody out and didn't get anybody home. They hit 2 ground balls and finally got a runner picked off. And Giles hit one of those ground balls right back to the pitcher with nobody out and second and third. So he's got a chance here. A second chance to get that runner home from third with less than 2 down.
Roberts hasn't scored a run in this ball game. He's been to third base with no one out twice. And he has not scored a run yet.
And he has led off 3 different innings with base hits and has not scored a run. I mean, the igniter at the top of the order has never been igniting better than he has today.
And so that tells you that as you move down the order, they're not finishing, you know, not doing their job. And one thing you're cognizant of here, if you're Dave Roberts, you can't get too far off third base because a line drive, you can be doubled off.
Change up, high and away.
And the theory is you get the same distance off the bag as the third baseman, so you can beat him back. If there's a line drive hit toward third base, you can get back just by diving back, you know, beating him to the bag.
So there's Roberts. You see him with his lead with Roland for comparison.
The point is you just do not want to be so far off that you're just caught.
That one came back and over the inside corner for a strike, 3-1. You got the right-handed hitter Piazza on deck. Even if Giles walks here, the middle infield could drop back to double play depth, and you've got the right-handed hitter against the right-handed pitcher and a guy who hits a double play balls.
Well, Giles has to pick out a pitch and try to get the ball in the air, and or hit it sharp enough to get it through the infield.
Inside, so Giles walks, and I don't think Suppan was too worried about walking in
No,
there.
I don't think so either, because he tried a couple of pitches off the plate inside, trying to get him to tail back to the inside corner, because he knew he could pitch Giles inside if he wanted to, but he wanted to make sure.
Well, here comes Tony La Russa, so Suppan may have put himself out of this game. Josh Hancock is going to be brought in from the bullpen, number 32. So Hancock will inherit first and third. One out. Piazza coming up. So here we are in the shadows of the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, near the great Mississippi, and the San Diego Padres trying to stay alive. The only way they can do it is to win this ball game, and then they'll play again tomorrow. They are ahead 3-0, but they've had chances to do a lot more than that. Now they have runners at first and third, one out, and here is Mike Piazza. Piazza facing Hancock, the middle infield double play depth. And La Russa hoping that Hancock can induce the double play ball here from Piazza.
And he goes right after him with a sinker, and that's what you want. You're trying to get the ground ball.
Hancock, 28 years old, a former college teammate of Tim Hudson. Piazza back out of play.
Had a good pitch to hit there. That one didn't sink as much, and Piazza was able to get underneath it, but he just missed it.
Hancock has in the past been with the Red Sox, the Phillies, and Cincinnati. His first year in St. Louis, and he was in 62 games for La Russa. Hancock out of Auburn University. There's that slider and a check swing by Piazza. Did he swing? No. Greg Gibson made the call from first base.
John, even though the Cardinals are up 2-0 and they have to win one of the next 3 ball games, that's not the way that they're looking at it, because they do not want to have to use Chris Carpenter tomorrow if they can help it. That way he would be available to start the LCS. And remember, you're not thinking about just one series. You're thinking about 19 games that you have to play in the postseason to win the championship. You're not looking past anyone, but you're thinking that there's a long way to go here, and you're trying to create a situation that's best for your team.
And the Padres continue to struggle in these at-bats where they have a chance to add runs.
That's the pitch he had to hit, and he did not make contact. Now here's a pretty good breaking ball there, down and away, and Piazza could not catch up with it. And Dave Roberts, we mentioned, has been to third base 2 times in this ball game with no one out, and he has yet to score a run.
That pitch was almost identical to the one that struck out Albert Pujols back in the 4th inning. Started in the strike zone, as you described it, and had that sharp bite to it and ended up out of the zone. So last chance to score in this inning. Here's Adrian Gonzalez, first and third, 2 down. Strike on the inside.
And I admit, John, some teams are thinking of this as a 5-game postseason. Others are thinking of this as a 19, because, look, we're looking to win the World Series, not just to win a playoff series. So I think that's kind of the different mentality you have. I mean, if you're the Yankees, you won 26 championships. You think we have to win the World Series, in order to be successful. I don't agree with that philosophy, but, sometimes that's the way it seems.
And stepping off the slab is Hancock. Remember, in this inning, Roberts led off with a single, stole second, and went to third when the throw went into center field. So he was at third base with nobody out.
Yeah.
But Walker grounded out. Giles walked. Now Piazza has struck out. And again, the Padres laboring to get somebody home. It'll take a hit or a cardinal mistake now to get him home. And that ball is fouled into the seats off to the left. And Gonzalez is behind in the count, 0-2.
And John, one of the great things I've always found being around great RBI men, they know when to expand the strike zone and when not to. There are times in a ball game when your team has been struggling. Some of the great RBI men that I've seen or played with, they knew when to expand the strike zone.
Mike Cameron on deck. Gonzalez has struck out and singled in this game. Needs a hit here to knock in a run. In the dirt. He tried the same idea as he used to strike out Piazza.
Well, he's got good, sharp, tight rotation on the breaking ball. This one didn't start in the strike zone enough, so there's really no reason for Gonzalez to even start at that. So you have to start it in the strike zone, or at least near the strike zone.
3-0. The Padres lead. Runners at first and third, 2 down. Again in the dirt, and again knocked down by Molina. You got to have confidence that that catcher's going to knock that ball down when you throw it with a runner at third.
You can see it has tight rotation on it. And I think in this case, he tried to overthrow a couple of them because you have a left-handed hitter up there as opposed to a right-handed hitter. Your target your release point target is a little different with a left-hander up there than it is a right-hander. You want to make sure you do not hang it.
Roberts at third, Giles at first, ready to go at the crack of the bat. That's down the left field line, slicing back and out of play. A foul ball into a sea of red. Hit that one pretty well.
I saw a Willie McGee jersey in the crowd, number 51. Yeah.
Well, they remember McGee. They remember him fondly.
Yeah.
You see Ozzie Smith jerseys here.
Yeah. Well, Willie McGee was definitely one of those hometown heroes, as they talk about.
You saw Willie McGee jersey before the game. I saw Red Change himself.
Oh, I misread. I usually see him.
That's back out of play. Red Change, Hall of Famer, former Cardinal manager, former Cardinal coach, and still involved in the organization.
He's kind of the Yogi Berra of the Cardinal organization.
Yeah, that's right.
He really is. Anything you need to know about Cardinal history, he knows. Just like Yogi is that same way about Yankee history.
Yeah, they lived it.
Yeah.
3-2. Now, this is quite a battle between Hancock and Adrian Gonzalez.
You know, I said this earlier that Gonzalez, he handles the strike zone pretty well. I mean, he'll chase some pitches like every hitter, but he knows the strike zone pretty well, and he usually stays within the strike zone. He forces you to come into the strike zone.
3-2. Giles is running from first. And a foul ball. That was a tough pitch. Good low slider. Giles will have to go back to first. The battle continues. This will be the 9th pitch of the sequence coming up.
Well, you can see the difference. He has to start this one up higher than he was trying to start the strikeout pitch that we saw him, throw to Piazza. Because it counts 3-2, you have to start it in the zone where Gonzalez might go after it and chase it.
Giles runs, and he walks him.
Yeah, good job by Gonzalez there.
The bases are loaded with 2 down. And Cameron, who has not been retired today, coming up. And again, he had an open base there with a tough left-handed hitter, Joe. So he didn't have to give in to Gonzalez.
But you see, Tony wasn't happy. He wanted to try to make that pitch, get him out, because now you have another runner in scoring position. So if Cameron does get a base hit, that's 2 runs, whereas if Gonzalez would have gotten a base hit single, it probably would have only been 1 run.
And Tony, I think, also upset because he was 0-2 with Gonzalez. Did he swing? Yeah. Greg Gibson says yes from first base on the appeal.
Again, he has such a tight rotation on his slider that it's tough to pick it up. And you can see Mike Cameron there trying to check his swing.
Cameron ripped a long double to left center in the second inning, and he walked in the fourth inning and scored a run. 3-0 Padres, fifth inning, bases loaded, 2 down. And that's a little bit low. You know, this is starting to remind me a little bit, Joe, of the Yankees game 2 at Detroit, where they kept getting base runner after base runner after base runner and only got the 3 runs on the Damon home run. And finally they lost the lead and lost the game. It could be a problem for the Padres in this one as well, even though they lead. They should have scored more by now. Two and one.
But if you're Mike Cameron, you've got him in a position where he has to give in to you, or if he makes a perfect pitch, you give it to him. But you've got a zone here. Look where you want the ball, middle in, middle away, whatever you want. You've got to look for it in that spot.
Right to third, and the multi-Gold Glove winner Roland handles it, and the Padres do not score. They had a runner at third, nobody out. They don't score. 3-0 San Diego. Bright sunshiny day in St. Louis. Game 3 of the National League Division Series, the Padres and the Cardinals. The Cardinals ahead 2-0, but the Padres, who must win, are leading in this game 3-0 as Chris Young throws a curveball too high to Juan Encarnacion, the 6th place hitter for the Cardinals. Josh Hancock getting out of a huge jam coming from the bullpen in the first half of the inning. So the Padres have that lead, Joe. They got a pitcher, Chris Young, pitching a great game. Only allowed 1 hit. He's retired the last 10 hitters in succession. And yet, it's very troubling for the Padres and their fans, the fact that they've got a 3-run lead and could well have a 5-6-7 nothing lead. Left center, Roberts looking up into that glare of the sun, but has no trouble making the catch. Encarnacion
well, one of the reasons they should feel a little more comfortable is the fact that Young is throwing the ball so well. He has 7 strikeouts in a variety of ways. He throws that by Duncan, gets rolling to chase the high slider. Molino chases the one away, high fastball to Suppan, and he gets Albert Pujols with the great breaking ball. Jim Edmonds just throws it right by him. And there you see Roland just blown away. So he is doing it in a variety of ways. Good high fastball and the good hard slider.
Here's a bloop. And Giles can't get it. Base hit for Belliard. That's the first base runner for the Cardinals since the first inning. And their first hit since Eckstein led off the game with a hit.
There you see only the second base hit, but the key stat here for me is he hasn't walked anyone either. He's forced them to earn their way on base, and he struck out 7. That's 7-to-1 ratio, 7 strikeouts to 1 base on balls. That's fabulous, obviously.
The Cardinals have only hit 1 ground ball today against Young. That was by Belliard back in the second inning. Everybody else has either struck out or hit a fly ball. There is Flores, number 34. Randy Flores warming up for the Cardinals. Pitcher would be due up next after Yadier Molina. And that's in there for a strike. Chris Young, former basketball player for Princeton and a former Texas Rangers pitcher. He was in from their farm system, and last year won 12 games for Texas when he was traded. And they got Akinori Otsuka, who ended up being their closer, and Adam Eaton in that trade. And the curve off the outside. Adrian Gonzalez came with Young, as did Termel Sledge. Adrian Gonzalez ended up being the Padres' everyday first baseman, and Young ended up all around probably the best pitcher of the year for the Padres. What with the problems that Peavy had in the middle part of the season. Adam Eaton had some injury problems with Texas, conversely, but he won several games after he got back. There goes Belliard. And Molina trying to poke one through that wide open right side, fouls one back into the crowd.
And you see Tony La Russa trying to help his offense. They only have 2 base hits. He's trying to open up a hole for Molina, and he opened it up. And Molina took a shot toward right field, but could not put it in play.
It was gaping.
Yeah, because Todd Walker actually took off a little too quickly towards second.
It really wasn't a hole. It was a valley.
Yeah.
It was a yawning chasm. As our friend, the late great Bill King, the broadcaster out in Oakland, once put it, there it goes again. And right back to the screen this time by Molina. And that time the shortstop was covering.
And Molina actually tried to pull that ball. I don't, that one he was right on again trying to pull it. So I don't think he saw the shortstop going. He just tried to pull that fastball.
So you got the managers both doing things here, and Bruce Bochy saw what Molina was trying to do, and then when they put the hit run on again the next pitch, the Padres changed up coverage. They said, wait a minute, that hole on the right side was too big. And yet it was as if Molina. Now, does Molina get a sign from Tony La Russa about that?
No.
So Molina was just guessing with it.
Yeah, well, he was just, I think with 2 strikes on that situation, he was just trying to put it in play. He's trying to hit it hard someplace.
Belliard not running this time. 3-2 the count.
Well, what happens is normally out there you have a captain of the infield, or especially between the short and second baseman, and one of them gives a sign on who's going to cover on different pitches. And sometimes you cover by what the pitch is. If it's a curveball, then the shortstop wouldn't cover against the right-handed hitter. If it's a fastball, then the second baseman would not cover. They just flip-flop. So the
count is 2-2, by the way, not 3-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
If you got a fastball up there to Molina, you figure he might hit it to the right side, so the shortstop would cover in that situation. If it was a curveball, he might pull it, so the second baseman covers. That's really how you do it a little, and in the hitters as well, who hits the ball where and whatever.
That's to third, could be 2. You get 1 at second, Walker to first, 2, a double play.
And that's what Tony was trying to avoid.
Well, we'll talk to Tony in 60 seconds. Heading to the 6th St. Louis, where the Padres lead the Cardinals 3-0. And we are very pleased to be joined now by Tony La Russa, the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals from the Cardinal dugout. Tony, welcome.
Hey, man, I looked down there and I saw how busy you were making all those switches and whatever.
Well, and then we're down 0-3, so we have to get a little busier.
Yeah, but I mean, you're at home and you're still in the ball game. I think the moves you made last inning to keep yourself in the ball game worked.
Well, 3 runs is nothing. We got 12 outs to go, but we dodged a big bullet. That was a great defensive first inning, and we're in the game, but we've got to make some points here. Would
Carpenter go tomorrow if you do not win today? I know you don't want to think past that, but have you gotten that far yet?
Well, Chris is a pitcher tomorrow. Hopefully he's resting and we can come back and win this one. But Young's a tough customer, and we're going to play it out though, Joe. We'll see what happens.
All right. Thanks.
Many thanks, Tony.
All right.
Tony La Russa. Now, the Padres were down in the series. Even if there's a game tomorrow, they'll still be down. They're not saying who's going to pitch tomorrow, but La Russa has committed that if there is a game tomorrow, that Carpenter will go.
And that makes a lot of sense to me. You try to get over it as soon as you can. You know what? One of the things I like, and
Russell Branyan, the hitter who got the big hit for the Padres, the one they'd been lacking, he hit a 2-run double in the 4th inning for the first 2 runs of this game for the Padres.
There are buzzwords that the players understand. And it's not cliches. They're buzzwords.
1-1 the count from Hancock. Now 2-1.
And I said it yesterday. Sparky Anderson always said, just go play the game. Let's play it. What did he just say? He just said, we're going to play this game. We're down, but we're going to play the game. And that means more than just going out and playing. It means we're going to do certain things to give ourselves a better chance of scoring those 3 runs. But we're going to keep playing.
So there's a code there.
Yeah, we're not going to try to do too much as individuals. We're going to play the game, And I think that's, like I say, one of those buzzwords that the players understand. But, and again, it's not a cliche. It may, it would sound like one to maybe, layman. But when you say play the game, there's more to it than just, hey, we're going to play. No, it means that we're going to do certain things to give ourselves a chance to win.
Well, how about this one?
All right.
We're just going to play them one at a time.
Yeah, see, that's a cliche. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. See, that's not, you don't hear Tony La Russa say that. I never heard Sparky Anderson say that. But, you know, that is a cliche. And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it because indirectly it's accurate. I mean, I'm going to take one at bat at a time and so forth and so on. But I think when you use a buzzword like I'm going to play the game, that says more than just go out and get 1, 2, 3 outs and go.
How about this one?
All right.
Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, pick a great pitcher.
Right.
He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like me. How about that one?
Yeah.
Is that a buzzword or is that?
No, that's a cliche.
Okay, all right.
Because indirectly you can only put your pants on one leg at a time. But see, play the game means you can do more things. There are a lot of things that go into just playing the game.
Well, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Jeff Blum, that could be trouble. And Duncan, no. And Blum's digging for 2. He's got himself a bloop double.
And what happens is it looks like this is a huge outfield, even though the dimensions aren't as great as some of the places. Now look how far Duncan has to come just to try to get to this ball. I mean, a long way. I mean, he just could not get there. I mean, because it's a big outfield, they were covering the gaps more than they're covering the lines. And that ball is right down the line. When you have a big outfield, you cover the gaps. And, you know, the lines are, you know, because it's shorter down the lines, you're giving them, you know, the line rather than giving them the gap.
Here's Chris Young. He has struck out twice in this game. Runner at second, 1 out. He belts one. Right center. Going back to tag up is Blum, Encarnacion. And Blum does not test him.
See, that's one of those where you're covering the gaps, and he was able to get there and make that play. If he's covering the line, that's in between them.
Now, Game Track brought to you by Intel. In the first inning, Mike Piazza with a ground ball, not getting Roberts home in first, and then Piazza gets picked off, and a great chance in the inning disintegrated into nothing. But then Branyan in the fourth inning hit a 2-run double into the right field corner, and that was the start of a 3-run rally. And Chris Young's done the rest. Young has been superb. He has shut out the Cardinals on only 2 hits through 5 innings.
And watching that play again where they picked Piazza off at first, I didn't give enough credit, I don't think, to how great a play it was from Pujols. He had to come in, make a tough catch, and make the tag all at the same time. It was not an easy routine pickoff.
That was the first inning. They had runners at second and third and nobody out. Did the Padres. Roberts at third, Walker at second, and their 3-4-5 hitters up. Giles hit one right back to the pitcher. The runners had to hold. Piazza hit the ground ball to first, and Roberts got thrown out at the plate by Pujols, who made a nice throw. And then the pickoff with the throw by Molina and the excellent tag by Pujols, and they did not score. And they also got a 1-out double in the second inning from Cameron, didn't score. A leadoff single by Roberts in the third. They didn't score. Roberts ended up at third with nobody out in the fifth inning, and they did not score. So without even getting a whole bunch of hits there, Joe, we're talking about where ground balls and fly balls and all kinds of things could have meant a run. They could have 5 or 6 runs on the board easily.
Just by making, you know, constructive outs, they would have been able to do that.
And the slider down and away. It is 3-1. Chris Young doing some stretching in the dugout. That's Joe and I are much like that, doing stuff almost identical to that up here in the booth during the game. Very similar. And that sinker is too low. So Roberts reaches base for the 4th straight time. But he has not scored a run today. So 2 men on, 2 men out, and Todd Walker coming up, and now Dave Duncan, the pitching coach, is going to go out to the mound. They've got Flores, the left-hander, up in the bullpen. So we'll see what they have in mind. Joe, got a message from Tommy Lasorda to pass along to everybody.
All right.
Tommy says, watch the postseason on ESPN. It's your duty, Judy.
Well, I saw Tommy. He was at the Mets game when I was there, Mets-Dodger game. Their opening game in Shea Stadium. I'm sure he'll be in Dodger Stadium tonight or later this afternoon when.
Are you kidding? Tommy Lasorda, Dodger Stadium?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be there.
That's what Tommy calls blue heaven on earth. And here's Todd Walker trying to get a big hit. He's had a tough day with the bat. Although he reached base in the first inning when Chris Duncan seemingly lost his line drive in the sun. And Walker got the second. But then Walker, after Roberts singled in the third, grounded into a double play. And with Roberts at third and nobody out in the fifth, he grounded out to second with the infield in. And the slider from Hancock down and in. So it is 2-0, and Molina takes timeout, runs out to the mound to talk to Hancock. Javier Molina, the youngest of the catching Molina brothers.
And it's always funny with brothers who play in the major. Each one, they say he's going to be better than the last one. That's kind of been the forecast. I mean, it was that way with Ramon Martinez, the pitcher, his brother Pedro, and I can't remember his younger brother, the left-hander, who was in the Dodger organization. They said he was going to be better than either one of them. That didn't actually happen, though.
2-0 the count. 2 men on, 2 men out in the sixth. That's in there for a strike. Now, what about that pitch, Joe? Was that a pitch to hit?
Well, 2-0, he was probably zoning in. By that, I mean looking for a pitch in a certain zone, not necessarily speed, but a zone. He may have been looking middle in because that was away. And which, if he throws the pitch opposite of where you're looking, you should take it. 2-0.
Now it's 2-1. Back to the breaking ball, and he swings at that one. He took the fastball, swings at the slider, and into the force play. The inning is over. The Padres 1 hit in 10 at-bats in the clutch today. All right, and here 3-0. The Padres out in front of the Cardinals as we go to the last of the 6th inning. And a defensive move has been made by the Padres, Bruce Bochy, on this bright, clear, beautiful day. Temperatures in the 70s. Bochy puts Khalil Green in at shortstop and has moved Jeff Blum from shortstop over to third base. So Branyan, the one guy to get a big hit in this series so far for the Padres, he is out.
Well, they were talking about Green, and he's their regular shortstop when he's healthy, but he's got a bad finger. He can play defense, but it bothers him to hit. So that's why they brought him in for defense, because he's an excellent defensive shortstop.
Aaron Miles, the pinch hitter for Josh Hancock. Hancock did a great job for the Cardinals.
Well, I think the Padres figured, they don't score a lot of runs. They've got 3. We got to protect those 3 runs with our best defense.
So Hancock, who did an excellent job for the Cardinals when their regular shortstop, David Eckstein, went down with an injury. And Miles ended up playing just about every day and did well. Back to the screen. 1-2, the former Colorado Rocky and a guy who spent a long time in the minor leagues. Persevering to get here. Switch hitter, runs well.
But if you're the Padres, you say, look, if I can just for sure get through this inning with Young, their bullpen lines up with Meredith, Linebrink, and Hoffman, 7, 8, and 9. That they know that they've got that if they can get past this inning. And that's not to say that they're going to take Young out, but they will feel more comfortable if they get him through this inning.
That's their game.
Yeah, that's the way they play.
That's how they got here. They win the first 6 innings.
Right. That's how they win the first 6 innings. There's Meredith there starting to loosen up. He would be the 7th inning. Scott Linebrink would be the 8th inning. And, of course, Hoffman would be the 9th inning, the closer. And that's something, to be honest with you, I think Tony La Russa really kind of made famous in Oakland in those early years. Get to the 6th inning, and then we can win.
And it's down and in. La Russa actually converted some people who had been starting pitchers when he got to Oakland, because he said, you know, our starting staff is not very imposing, so maybe we'll build it the other way. We'll start at the back and build forward. And they had a lot of success doing that there. This is Gonzalez almost to home plate. Talk about taking charge and saying, let me handle this for you guys.
He's the only one to look comfortable under that ball then, John.
Well, we've got Chris Young from Princeton starting here. Not many Ivy Leaguers have ever started in a postseason game. We got Ron Darling with the Mets from Yale, Jim Beattie from Dartmouth, and
Hadley?
Bump Hadley.
Oh, Hadley. Okay.
Back in the 30s. In fact, I have an old tape at home sometime. If you want to come over, we'll listen to it together, Joe, in the offseason.
Okay.
The 1936 World Series at Yankee Stadium, the Giants and the Dodgers, or rather the Giants and the Yankees played.
All right.
And Bump Hadley was a starting pitcher. Red Barber's one of the broadcasters.
If every golf course in California is closed this winter, I'm going to come over and listen to that with you.
All right, well, on that day, just give me a call.
Yeah, I'll give you a call. When every golf course is closed, I'm going to call you. I'm going to come over and listen to that.
In that game, Joe DiMaggio played.
Oh, okay. It's getting better.
Lou Gehrig. That's a base hit for Eckstein. Only the 3rd hit for the Cardinals, and Eckstein has 2 of them. 1 out, 1 on. Duncan coming up. Let's go down to Aaron Andrews now.
Well, guys, just to add up on your Ivy Leaguers graphic that you talked about, John, Chris Young, when I was speaking to Mike Piazza about what it's like to catch him, he said, well, you know, of course he's a good pitcher. I enjoy it, but he's like, make smart decisions on the mound. No, really, you've got a guy up there that scored 1,600 on his SATs. I know he's going to do the right thing up there. And Piazza also joked he's good to have in the clubhouse when you play those trivia games as well.
He's good on trivia games, yeah. You want him on your team. Duncan, and the curve is too high. 1 ball and no strikes. Now, you've got 1 out, 1 on. The Cardinals are down by 3. If Duncan can get aboard here, the man up next is Albert Pujols, and he'll have a chance to tie the game. And that Padre bullpen, they're not waiting until the 7th inning now. That bullpen is up and getting ready right now. First base side foul. The shadows have crept over first base. But remember, this game started at noontime here in St. Louis. And the shadows are they're not all that close to home plate yet. As we're about 20 minutes after 2. St. Louis time right now. In that bullpen, there's Alan Embry, the only left-hander in the Padres bullpen during the regular year. And Clay Meredith, the side-arming right-hander. What an incredible pickup he was. Who kind of made that bullpen. You know, he had Linebrink and Hoffman at the end of games. And then Meredith came in, and he made them almost invincible in the last 3 innings of games. 2-1 to Duncan. There is Albert Pujols on deck. One of the greats of the game. Strike call. He got the call to the outside there. 2-2. And I don't know, Joe, that might have been a little off the outside.
Well, he definitely got the call there.
Now, is that one of those buzzwords?
Yeah. See, now you're getting it.
Okay. Yeah, he got the call on a pitch that was not a strike. All right.
See, a cliche would have been, that was close.
3-2 the count to Chris Duncan. Well, you're going to take the good with the bad. 3-2 the count. Everybody up and waving those rally towels or Homer hankies. And a big cut there by Chris Duncan, but he fouled it back out of play. This guy seems to take a big cut most of the time.
Yeah, you know the thing that was surprising though, John, I've watched him and he looks like a pretty good player. and he is, but I looked and he had 22 home runs and 43 RBIs. That's, that's not really efficient, using your home runs efficiently.
Most of your RBIs are driving in yourself. He walks, and Pujols is coming up.
Not a good thing to do there if you're the Padres and Mr. Young.
So now Bochy himself is coming to the mound. 1 out, 2 men on. And not Bosley, the pitching coach, but Bochy himself out to the mound.
You know, when you talk about superstars rising to the occasion, you know, not only in this postseason has Pujols risen to the occasion, but down the stretch when they were struggling, any game they won was won by Albert Pujols. He hit a big home run to tie, to put him ahead. I mean, he has been truly the superstar that the Cardinals, you know, talked about in the history of their franchise as the Stan Musials of the world and all those great players they've had.
You know, one of those games was against the Padres September 27th when they had lost 7 in a row. And in the last of the 8th inning, he hit a 3-run homer. That was a prodigious blast. And that's when the Astros were getting real close. And he hit that one against Clay Meredith. He's about the only guy all year who touched up Clay Meredith.
Well, this will be interesting to see how he tries to attack Pujols, because I don't think he's going to pitch around him.
Albert 0 for 2 in the game. That's a called strike with a breaking ball, and Albert thought it was too high.
Now, I'll use a cliche here. That one was out of the zone. And Albert was disappointed that he called it a strike. And you can see anytime a catcher pulls the ball down that far, it's out of the zone.
And that was not a cliche, Joe. That was a strongly stated opinion.
All right. I mean, you can watch the catcher. I mean, if there's a slight movement, hey, you're okay. But he pulled that one down about 6 inches.
K-zone read it out of the strike zone as well. 0-1. High and tight. Remember, Young, as good as he's been all year, has given up a lot of home runs, 28 of them.
Well, John, one of the things that has changed considerably in the game. That pitch was up and in. People boo. Hey, Chris Young needs to protect his part of the plate. He's going to try to go away. You protect that by coming inside.
That's a check swing. He got a break on that one. That one was inside, but it hit the bat inadvertently. And now he's ahead of Albert. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
And now it gives him the chance to throw that little slide piece that he threw Albert before. So he's coming inside to keep Albert honest. I mean, that's what you do as a pitcher. You know how you got him out last time was the breaking ball away. Albert knows that. He might be leaning out there or looking out there. But that keeps him from going out there.
Eckstein at second. Duncan at first. Young's got to go after Albert because Albert can only tie the game. The guy on deck could do worse, Jim Edmonds. And he tries that breaking ball and he hangs it up and away again.
One of the great philosophers of the game, Tony Perez, he used to say, you think out there, but you don't go out there, meaning on those sliders away. You may think out there, but you do not go across the plate to get it.
2-2 to Albert Pujols. He is the possible tying run. 1 out. He struck him out, and he got him chasing one up out of the strike zone.
Well, he got a lot of help there. The first call strike, and then the accidental pitch that hit the bat to get 2 strikes on him. But you have to give Chris Young credit because he has that exploding fastball up. I mean, we've seen guys chase it all day today, and they cannot catch up with it. It just seems like it gets on you quicker than you might think. And obviously that's understatement is that's a big out. There's that cliche. That was a big out, you know, with Albert Pujols, you know, the best hitter in the game right now.
Well, he had a little giddy up in that fastball, Joe. Here's Jim Edmonds. Left center. Roberts back. Warning track at the wall. He's got it.
Nice.
Wow.
Play.
And all the Cardinals sluggers will tell you it's a little more difficult. The Padres still clinging to a 3-0 lead as Chris Young was able to sail through some troubled seas there in the 6th inning and get through it. So now Randy Flores into the game for the Cardinals, facing Padres' third-place hitter Brian Giles, and throwing ball 1. Flores, 31 years old. He was in 65 games this year, more of a specialist. Only pitched 41 2/3 innings. Giles dribbles one ever so slowly, and Flores bounces one into Albert Pujols, but Albert takes care of it. 1 away.
That was actually a nice play by Flores, though, because he got to the line very quickly and still had time. And watch, left-handers, you know, by nature kind of lean toward the third base side, but look how quickly he gets off the mound and gets to the ball, and he makes a good play.
So Giles has not hit the ball out of the infield in this game. He's now 0 for 3. 2 of the balls have been handled by the pitcher, Mike Piazza, and he takes the ball up and away. We're talking about the Padres and their problems getting the big base hit with runners on base, and it's extended through today, even though they have 3 runs on the board. But a big moment in game 1 in San Diego occurred in a day game with the problems with the glare of the sun. Mike Piazza was not able to catch a pop-up back at the backstop hit by Albert Pujols, and then moments later, Albert, still alive, launched a 2-run homer, and that one is up against the wall. Piazza going to challenge him, and he makes it. A double for Mike Piazza.
And that's the way Mike Piazza hit the ball, you know, when he played for the Mets, when he was, you know, healthy. Drive the ball in the right center field. I mean, he was excellent at hitting the ball the other way. Fastball away, and I mean, he blisters it. That's a pure line drive. No one's able to even, no one can run that one down. And Piazza hustles to second base with a double.
First hit of the series for Piazza. And that brings up Adrian Gonzalez to try and bring him home. Hit number 8 for the Padres. Padres have had, I think, 14 base runners today. Marty Aronoff confirms that. But only 3 runs. That's not a good ratio.
See, now that's a cliche. They're not picking them up. They're getting them out there, but they're not picking them up.
They've had a lot of ducks on the pond today.
Yeah.
They need a few more frozen ropes with all those ducks in the pond, and they'll be fine. 1 ball and no strikes to Adrian Gonzalez, who has struck out, singled, and walked. And back to the screen. He singled in the 4th inning to start that 3-run rally. The only runs of the game scored in the 4th inning. Gonzalez singled, Cameron walked, and then Russell Branyan doubled both of them home and took 3rd, and then scored on Blum's fly ball. A 3-run rally. Otherwise, it's been a day of frustration for them offensively again. Strike 2 to Gonzalez.
I mean, going into the series, we knew that the Padres basically going to have to win this series if they're going to win it with their pitching staff. They were unlucky that they got into situations in the first 2 games where they had to pitch to Albert Pujols, and he hurt them. And the Cardinals were lucky, in my opinion, that it always seemed to be Pujols in the right spot in those games. And I think you have to have a little bit of luck to be able to be in that situation. You know, it's you know, game revolves around, you know, a mistake here or a walk here, whatever. And over the course of that game, anything can happen. But if you're lucky enough to have the right guy hitting in those situations, you always have a chance of winning. And that's what happened with the Cardinals the first couple of games. Albert was always the guy.
And that's a ball to Gonzalez, and it is 3-2. Basketball, you just get the ball to the right guy. Football, you either hand it to him or throw it to him.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the difference in this game. And I've always said one of the weaknesses of our game, you can take the superstar out of the game just by walking him, and you can't do that. You couldn't take the ball from Michael Jordan. You couldn't keep Montana from throwing the ball to whom he wanted to.
And that is too low. So Gonzalez draws a walk. They've got the right-hander up in the bullpen. So let's see if La Russa's thinking about a move here. As the Mets lead L.A. 2-0. And the Mets starting pitchers,
Look at that.
That was going to be a problem without El Duque and Pedro. But they've only allowed 1 earned run so far in the 2 games. Detroit leads the Yankees 2-1. Yankees have been shut out for the last 14 innings by the young Tigers. And of course the
A's, they just dismantled the Minnesota Twins.
The A's are already waiting it out to see who they'll be playing next. 2 men on. New pitcher coming in. Padres are hoping for nothing but blue skies from now on, but they are trailing in this series 2-0. They have the lead in this one, but they've had a hard time extending it. They've had almost unlimited chances to extend that lead. 15 base runners, only 3 runs. 2 men on right now for Braden Looper to contend with as he comes in for the bullpen. Veteran right-hander, and he faces Mike Cameron. Cameron has doubled, walked, and hit into a force play. 1 hit, 2 at-bats officially. That ball is lined into left field. Back is Duncan. He makes the catch.
Man,
hit that one hard, but with topspin on it.
and when he first hit it, it looked like it might carry over Duncan's head because he wasn't going to have time to get back, but it did have topspin and it came down, so he was able to make the catch. But when it first leaves the bat, it's hard enough to go over his head, but it started sinking. So he's going back. Now he has to stop because it's coming down. You know, you get underneath it and that ball's out of the ballpark, or that 1/16 of an inch we talk about, and that ball would have gone out of the ballpark. If he gets the right rotation on it, he got topspin on it instead of the backspin. A lot of that has to do with your top hand rolling over on it as well.
Here is the October shadows, still not that close to the plate. Khalil Green had a sprained ligament in the middle finger in his left hand back in early August, and that really put him on the shelf for a long time as he re-injured that finger. And he's been taking some batting practice. They think he can hit now, but he has not really hit for a long time. In the dirt with the slider, and Molina keeps that one from going anywhere. You've got Piazza at second, Gonzalez at first, and 2 down. Bruce Bochy, his club leading 3-0, and he wouldn't mind if they were leading 5-0 or 6-0 with those Cardinal sluggers still liable to come up in the late innings. His bullpen, by the way, is quiet. I mean, and why not? Chris Young has just been superb today. 6 shutout innings, only 3 hits allowed. Here's Young. This is a soft roller off the hands, and Eckstein in the dirt, but Albert pulls it out. 2 more stranded. They've left 10 men on base, so they had a couple of errors. Russell Brannon's had the one big hit of the day, a 2-run double back in the 4th inning. And what proved to be a 3-run rally. He later scored the other run. Brannon no longer in the game now. 46,634, the paid crowd here in Cardinals country. And there is Chris Young, the former Princeton basketball star, and he's looking like a baseball star these days. In that first inning, the Padres had frustration as we check out game track. Mike Piazza failing to get the runner home from third, then later got picked off at first by Yadier Molina. And then Brannon in the 4th inning hit the double into the right field corner, scoring Gonzalez and Cameron. And Young has pretty well taken care of everything else. He has struck out Albert Pujols 2 times today. Albert, who rarely strikes out, maybe a couple of times a week, has struck out in consecutive at-bats against Chris Young. The question now is, how long can Young stay in this game? Here is Scott Rowland. He has struck out twice. Now, Rowland feels so mismatched against him, he's looking to bunt.
Well, I don't think it was a bad idea because he caught Blum off guard at third base there. He could have dropped it down, and you know, as the old saying goes, he can't hit a 3-run homer leading off the inning.
Is that a cliche?
That's a cliche. That's for sure. For sure.
All right, 2-0. As your buzzword interpreter, I just want to double check. 2-0 the count. And 3-0.
Well, the one thing that if you're the Padres and you're Bruce Bochy, you're sitting there saying, well, you know, he's gotten me to where I want him to go. In the 7th, I'm trying to nurse him a little bit longer, but I'm not going to wait too long because, you know, like you say, you can be eliminated here today. It's not about playing for the tie or whatever. So I think if he walks this guy, we may see someone come in from the bullpen.
Meredith, the right-handed. Embry, the left-handed, both up out of that Padre bullpen. 3-1. And Roland pops it up.
Piazza didn't see it at first.
In the shadows. And this time he made sure.
Nice play. He didn't see it at all. When it went up, he watched. He saw Young coming in and Gonzalez, and he finally found it. And he ended up making a fine play there. Now watch, see, he doesn't know where it is. He's not even looking up. He wasn't even looking up. He was looking at Gonzalez, and Gonzalez must have pointed to where it was, and then Piazza had to make a fine play. And bam, he drops. I mean, he was just out of control there, but he made a good play.
I think even when he was looking up, he still didn't know where it was. Yeah. And then finally he found it, and that's when he realized he had to move right. So as you say, Joe, it ended up being a great play. And remember, he was right at the edge of the shadows, so he was looking directly up into that harsh glare of the sun.
And he doesn't have sunglasses as the infielders and outfielders can wear.
One Encarnacion, and that was ruled a swing. The big guns in that Cardinal batting order, Joe, guys like Chris Duncan, Pujols, Edmonds, Roland, Encarnacion, they get 5 guys in a row who can hurt you.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of pitchers nary a hit from any one of those 5 guys. 0 for 12 with a couple of walks. Duncan 0 for 2 with a walk. Albert 0 for 3. Edmonds 0 for 2 with a walk. Roland is now 0 for 3. And Encarnacion is 0 for 2. And that's high and tight.
Well, you can see that he's lost a little bit of his rhythm even with Roland. And that's why we talk about the importance of each and every pitch in the postseason. He was 1 pitch away from being out of this ball game. If he walked Roland, he was going to be out of the ball game. He was able to get Roland out. Now it's back to 2-2 with Encarnacion. He is just, you know, right now it looks like he's lost his rhythm a little bit.
Slider, and that was right out over the middle of the plate.
Exactly. That was a mistake pitch. And Encarnacion had a fine swing at it. He just fouled it back. I mean, every time a pitcher hangs a pitch, it doesn't mean he's going to get hurt. That was right there. He had a good swing. He just fouled it back. I laugh sometimes. They say, well, the pitcher made 1 mistake during the game and it hurt him. No, they make mistakes. They're just not always hit out of the ballpark.
Came back with a high fastball that jammed him, fouled back. 2-2 the count. Well, Young has just been outstanding today. And when you look at what he's done to these big sluggers in the Cardinal order, I mean, you don't really have to say anything else because not many pitchers run through that part of the lineup totally unscathed.
Right.
Time after time. 1 out, nobody on. David Eckstein looking on from the dugout. 2-2. Strike 3 called on the inside corner. His 9th strikeout. 2 down. Now let's go down to Aaron Andrews. Aaron?
Well, John, you mentioned Chris Young getting the best of these big guns in this Cardinals lineup. One of those guys, Scott Rowland, obviously we just saw him get out before Juan Encarnacion. Before the playoffs, Scott Rowland in a pretty big September slump. And Tony La Russa is saying in his office today, some people speculating that that shoulder is giving him a hard time. That's it. That surgically repaired shoulder is about a year away. You can take it, John. We'll follow up later.
In foul ground, and no, Jeff Blum, he's up despite not catching the ball, flipping over the railing and into the crowd.
I think he flipped over to protect himself.
But let's go back to Aaron. Aaron, go ahead.
We're just following up Scott Rowland, that shoulder. He had that done about a year ago, and he has said it's not going to be fully healed until he comes back in the 2007 spring training. Hal McRae telling me today he does believe it is that shoulder that is causing him to be in such a slump. but mentally he thinks Scott Rowland is over it. Just mechanically he needs to get stronger.
Yeah, and and it's interesting because Scott Rowland doesn't want to make an excuse. He doesn't want to say, well, it's because of this or because of that, but I think everybody knows that he's not 100% as Belliard rips one down the left field line. Roberts up throwing, but Belliard's already there. A double. And the second hit for Belliard.
Well, Belliard's always been a good hitter. And he just rips this breaking ball right down the line. No chance for Blum to make a play on it. And he runs well, so it's a double as soon as it goes down into the corner.
And now Tony La Russa is going to go to his bench. And the switch hitter, Scott Spiezio, there he is.
Well, I think Bochy was waiting to see what move he's going to make, because I do believe that he's going to take Young out of the ball game. I said anytime Young got someone on base this inning, he was going to be gone. If he'd have walked the leadoff hitter Rowland, I think they would have taken him out then. In fact, I see Bochy out of the dugout. He's asking, have they announced Spiezio yet? Is what he's asking him.
And with Young due up second in the 8th inning, in fact, he's taking Piazza out of the game as part of a double switch. So Bochy will now head out to the mound and remove Chris Young, which has got to be a little bit of a disappointment for Young because he's been so outstanding today. 6 2/3 innings, only 4 hits allowed, and only 2 guys have had hits. Eckstein's had 2 singles, and Belliard down with a single and a double. The left-hander empty. Cardinals trying to mount a comeback here in Game 3 of this National League Division Series. The Padres trying to stay alive. Down 2 games to none, but they lead the game 3-0. And there's the veteran left-hander, Alan Embry, making Scott Spiezio, the veteran switch hitter, bat right-handed. Spiezio's never had a hit against Embry. Slider too low. I say slider, more of a curveball. Slow curveball in the dirt. 1 ball, no strikes. Embry may be in just to face the one hitter. A right-handed hitter has come out on deck for the Cardinals. Embry was in 73 games this year. Belliard, the runner at second. And too low. 2-0. Cardinals have had very few chances with a runner or runners in scoring position tonight. In fact, they have not had any runners get past second base in the game. Chris Young threw 100 pitches, allowed only 4 hits and 2 walks, and had 9 strikeouts. Belliard is his responsibility over at second base. Pop foul and back out of play. Scott Spiezio with postseason experience. He was an important hitter in that Angels lineup back in 2002 when the Angels won the World Series. And remember Game 6 of that World Series against the Giants. They were behind 5-0 in the 7th inning. And Spiezio hit a 3-run homer, starting a great comeback. And they won that ball game and then won the World Series the next day. 2-1 to Spiezio. And he came after him with the heat. 94-mile-an-hour fastball, fouled straight back. Spiezio hit .272 for the Cardinals this year. All of his home runs were hit batting left-handed. He had 85 at-bats right-handed with no home runs, but he hit .318 right-handed. But he's just more of a, almost literally just a singles hitter, right-handed. 2-2 the count. 2 down. Taguchi on deck. And the curve is too low. You know, a week ago, when they were struggling to win a ball game to make the postseason, being pressed by the Astros, Spiezio hit a bases-loaded triple in the last of the 8th inning against Milwaukee when they were down 2-0, and that won that game 3-2 for them. The rally towels a blizzard of rally towels. Fastball popped up, foul, and that's back out of play.
Well, I've always thought Spezio was a good low ball hitter from the left side, and he's more of a high ball hitter from the right side. So that was a good pitch for him to hit. He just fouled it back.
You see those rally towels? By the way, Rob Bowen came in with Embry. He is the new catcher replacing Piazza. Bowen drops aside. 3-2 the count. He struck him out. And Spezio didn't think so. One man left as we head to the 8th inning now. Spezio called out a swinging strike 3. To the 8th inning, 3-0. I'm John Miller along with Joe Morgan and Aaron Andrews, and there is Gary Bennett now catching for the Cardinals after the starting catcher Yadier Molina was lifted for a pinch hitter. Braden Looper still out on the mound as the Padres get ready to bat here with Jeff Blum. And then we saw Bowen, who came in to catch, and it is Bowen, in fact, who was out on deck. Bowen came in with Alan Embry when they made the double switch. Inning number 8. So Jeff Blum has been walked intentionally. He's hit a sacrifice fly, and he has doubled. 3-0 San Diego, and a pop-up. And Eckstein has no idea where it is. Here comes Duncan now, and Duncan struggling all the while, but he makes the catch. He was staggering under that one. Meanwhile, Eckstein didn't have a clue. He never saw it. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Aaron Andrews. Welcome to Busch Stadium in St. Louis, where the Padres must win to stay alive in this best-of-5 series. Down 2-0. And they had scored only 1 run in the first 2 games of the series, but they finally broke out for a 3-run 4th inning rally today. Dave Roberts has had an excellent game at the top of the order, but they've not been able to get him home all day long. Russell Brannon's had the only clutch hit, the big RBI double, actually a 2 RBI double in the 4th inning. Chris Young, 6 2/3 scoreless innings, including striking out Albert Pujols twice and Scott Rowland twice. Young relieved by Embry for the final out in the 7th. The batter is Rob Bowen. Came on for Piazza in the last of the 7th when Alan Embry came into the game. And now, Joe, those shadows have started to move in on home plate.
Yeah, well, they still have about, I'd say, another 15 minutes before it gets out in front of the plate. That's where the problems come in. Right now, you're still okay as far as seeing the ball. A little tougher on the catcher and the umpire, but the hitter strides out in front of the plate, so he's still in the sunlight all the way.
Plate umpire Brian Gorman, one of the members of the 6-man umpiring crew, as Bowen rolls it foul off to the left. The Padres are one of the few teams that goes with 3 catchers, and it's really because of Mike Piazza. Number one, they feel like they needed a catcher who's going to be able to come in and play defense late in tight games. And also, Piazza, at age 38, needs regular days off. And one thing that, I mean, they made this incredible deal where they sent Doug Mirabelli back to the Red Sox and got Josh Bard and Clay Meredith both. And they both became key members of this Padres club. Bowen into left field, and there's Duncan. He did not hold it. So Duncan has been having a terrible time of it in left field today. Earlier, missing one entirely back in the 1st inning that went for 2 bases.
Well, he started in on it, and then he thought it was going to hit in front of him. Then he realized he was going to be able to catch it on the fly. So he starts, and it just hits him. Well, that one hit him in the glove somewhere. That one, he got leather on that one.
And it will be scored as a hit for Bowen. Josh Bard became a valuable pinch hitter for the Padres, a valuable backup catcher for the Padres. And Clay Meredith became one of the anchors of the bullpen. Dave Roberts with the bunt, and Looper just gets him at first base. Albert Pujols covering. He was not bunting for the sacrifice there. He wanted a hit.
Well, let's take a look and see. I mean, this is what the left fielder is looking into. It's over the corner of the. I'm not trying to defend the fact that Duncan has not been able to make these catches, but you can see that he's having trouble out there in the outfield. When we were at Yankee Stadium a couple of days ago, you could see the trouble that the left fielder was having in the sun there at Yankee Stadium. But that's a famous Sun field. This may become a famous Sun field if you play enough postseason games here in the daytime.
Here is Walker, and it's one of those cloudless days too.
Yeah, I don't.
The cliche was, it's a high sky.
High sky.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Dave Roberts was trying to beat that out for a bunt. If you're going to beat it out like that, you don't square around as quickly and try to drop it down the third base line. I don't know exactly. He's been swinging the bat well today also.
Yeah, he's had 3 hits today. It's the only time that he's been retired. He gets credit for a sacrifice.
Right. Well, he did sacrifice the runner in the second base, but
yeah. Well, that's not what he wanted with 1 out.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say you try to beat it out. He squared around to beat it out.
I thought Maury Wills, though, taught him
to square a little bit.
Well, that also the drag.
See, that's what I'm saying. You got to do something on the move if you're trying to beat it out, because you're going to advance the runner.
Yeah, it was a little mysterious, though, because he did square around as if he intended to sacrifice.
And again, I mean, he swung the bat well today.
Get me. You have Maury's phone number?
Yeah.
I want to talk to Maury.
Call Maury and ask him. Yeah.
Maury, what's up with Dave?
Yeah.
Maybe you need to give him a call. Of course, Maury's probably at Dodger Stadium right now. The Dodgers will be in the same situation as the Padres. They need a win to stay alive against the Mets.
And we can see now the shadow has creeped out to home plate over the front part of home plate, so it wasn't a 15-minute chance there. You can see now the shadow is there.
I think the hitter still sees the ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he should be able to see it. Yeah, because you can't see it the last 2 feet anyway. You're only seeing it out in front, and you're gauging where it's going, and your body, your hand-eye coordination reacts to get to the ball.
So you've already decided swing or no swing.
Yeah, a lot of guys, I mean, I remember reading a couple places Ted Williams say he thought he actually saw the ball hit the bat, and I've heard a few players say that.
This could be a game show, Joe, for ESPN. I'm thinking swing or no swing. And we'll get all those pitches, and we'll show the pitch coming in,
and see if
we'll stop it, and we'll ask them to make the decision. Did he swing
or did he not?
Yeah. Swing or no swing. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I might put some briefcases in this thing too.
I think when the shadow really affects you, it'll be right out in here. Then you're halfway in sunlight, halfway in dark, and that's when it really has an effect on you as a hitter.
That was a changeup from Looper, maybe the splitter. Belliard throws out Todd Walker. A long day for Walker. He's 0 for 5. Padres 1 for 13 in their advancement. A while now. He throws hard. And when they were looking for a third baseman, remember they cut Vinny Castilla loose, and which was kind of a shock in the clubhouse. Yeah. Vinny was not hitting, and he's announced his retirement now at the end of the season. But when they were trying to acquire a third baseman, everybody wanted Scott Linebrink. And the Padres just weren't willing to get rid of him because they feel like this guy is not only one of the best 8th inning guys around, but he's going to be a closer. He's the heir to Trevor Hoffman as the Padres closer.
Well, you can see why. He has great stuff, a live fastball, really good movement on his fastball. His fastball is way up and in, and Taguchi trying to check his swing, fouls it off. But he has a very live arm, and, you know, that's what you look for when you're thinking about a pitcher coming out of the bullpen.
There's Trevor Hoffman. Things stay this way for the 9th inning. We'll see Trevor. Taguchi fights that one off, 0-2. So Taguchi from the Japanese leagues. He's a very fine outfielder, runs well, and he's been a very useful role player for the Cardinals. Can steal a base. 0-2. That was a hanging slider deep to left. Gone! A home run! first run of the day for the Cardinals on a home run by a guy who hit 2 home runs all year.
Well, he threw him such great sinking fastballs and tailing fastballs in, and then he hung him a breaking ball. Looked like it was out over the middle of the plate and up. And Taguchi just hammered it on a line into the seats in left field. Well, after, he has that great fastball, and then he hangs a breaking ball right there in the middle of the plate, right at the top of the strike zone. And a good choice there by Tony La Russa. Like you said, he only had 2 home runs during the year. And
Eckstein hits the deck. Eckstein, who is 2 for 3 today.
Well, obviously he didn't pick that one up very quickly, and there you see the shadow is out in front of home plate, so it does make it more difficult to see.
And a strike on the inside. 2-1. Linebrink gives up the home run to an unlikely source of power. Now Eckstein trying to get aboard with the big hitters coming up. Strike 2. When Bochy gets to this part of the game, there's Pujols in the hole with Duncan on deck. He doesn't worry about left-handed hitters coming up, right-handed hitters coming up. Linebrink is the 8th inning guy. Hoffman is the 9th inning guy.
Well, the one thing to be aware of, I mean, Hoffman has more saves than anyone in the history of the game, but he's not just a close down, come out, blow you away type saver. Closer, he has to mix his pitches and change speeds on you. Oh, he swung at ball 4.
That one almost hit him.
And he was so patient up until that point.
That ball ran right in on him, and if he hadn't have swung at it, might have hit him.
And you can see this ball tails in. That's what I was saying. He's got such a live fastball, and it's clearly out of the strike zone, but it's very difficult to see out there right now. And, you do not want to take strike 3.
So now Duncan, in his job, get on base and let Albert Pujols take a shot at tying the game. That was a splitter, and it is 0-1.
Yeah, you can see they try to take speed off the pitches to Duncan. There you see what the middle of the lineup has done today.
The only guys who even reached base amongst Pujols, Edmonds, and Rowland. Edmonds got a walk. So the 3 of them are combined 0 for 8 and with 5 strikeouts. All of that against Chris Young, the starter. Another splitter. That's what makes Linebrink very tough. He got the exploding fastball, and when it's working, a good slider, and then that splitter, which can be almost impossible to hit. And I think that's a good pitch, probably, Joe, when you've got bad visibility up there.
Yeah, well, it's a good pitch when you have a guy that's a good fastball hitter as well. I mean, you can get him to chase one out of the zone, but Duncan, is basically a fastball hitter.
He backs away now. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 46,634, the paid crowd. It's Jim Edmonds in the foreground. So Taguchi, 2 home runs and over 300 at bats. Hits a pinch hit home run. The only run of the game for the Cardinals so far. And all of those failures by the Padres lineup with runners in scoring position echoing right now, because that lead should be much bigger. It is only a 2-run lead.
Well, good job so far by Duncan to be able to force Linebrink to come back after him. And I think this is a big pitch with Albert Pujols on deck.
3-2. He walked him.
And Linebrink wanted that one. He thought it tailed back to the inside corner. Let's take a look. It tails back, but it does not come back enough.
Wow. I mean, the worst Duncan could have done was make it a 1-run game.
Yeah.
And he gives him first base, and now Albert Pujols could tie the game. And there are not many guys who are as big a threat to hit the long ball as Albert Pujols.
Especially late in the ball game in these clutch situations.
And you see Linebrink has not done well against Albert.
No.
5 hits, 10 at-bats against Linebrink, including a home run. And Albert, how long can you shut him down? He's lined out to right, twice struck out. He's hitless on the day. Slider, strike, and it's 0-1. The sort of the get it in there slider in the first pitch.
I think Albert was going to take that pitch anyway because he's trying to see how well, he can see the rotation on the ball, because it is a different atmosphere than when he was hitting earlier in the ball game.
Now the slider. There is Blum, second one. Walker to first. A double play. The inning is over. And Albert Pujols has been shut down by the Padres. Giles coming. 3-1 Padres, as our thanks to Linda Cohn. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Aaron Andrews from the new Busch Stadium on a beautiful day. And there is Cardinals left-hander Tyler Johnson on to pitch now. The 5th pitcher of the day, utilized by Tony La Russa. So Taguchi stays in to play left field. And Duncan is retired. So the pitcher, Johnson, will be in the number 2 spot in the order. So the Padres coming up with a 3-1 lead, and Trevor Hoffman starting to get ready in the bullpen for the 9th inning. There's Trevor. More saves, as you mentioned, Joe, than any closer in the history of the game. Although, in a way, it's almost like saying the most saves since we started caring about saves, and maybe the last. I think the save rule came in '69.
They had Lee Smith, who was a previous owner of the career saves leadership in Petco Park, when he threw out the first ball in a game recently when they were honoring Trevor Hoffman for his record.
So Lee Smith, I'm still wondering about Lee for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Bruce Sutter is in.
I've wondered for a long time if he's the save leader. The home run leaders, everyone other leaders in there.
And he was sort of the quintessential saver. I mean, he looked the part.
Yeah.
He was big and strong.
Intimidating.
He threw real hard. And he could be a little bit effectively wild as well. That's a fastball, a strike to Brian Giles, who was 0 for 3 with a walk. Padres have had 9 hits in this game. They've received 6 walks, plus an error to put a runner on, 16 base runners, and only 3 runs. They've had 1 hit in 13 at-bats with runners in scoring position in this game. 11 left on base. They've had a runner picked off. They've had a runner wiped out on a double play. And a check swing there. No swing, says Marty Foster, the third base umpire. So Brian Giles facing Tyler Johnson in the shadows. And the crowd is eerily quiet, Joe, knowing that Albert Pujols will not be batting in the last of the 9th inning.
What is that? They were quiet because Mighty Casey has struck out.
Mighty Pujols has grounded into an inning-ending double play. Even worse. And they don't seem to be holding out much hope right now. Remember, this Cardinals team has not been the kind of team that they've had here in the last several years. I mean, they just finished barely above 500. And they had 3 long losing streaks this year. And Giles swings and misses. Strike 3. He's 0 for 4. And this is ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball and the Division Series, presented by Budweiser. And we're in St. Louis, Joe, the home of Budweiser. And we're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Budweiser Select. You know, Joe, I'm a little dry. if you wouldn't mind, when this game's over, Josh Barfield is the pinch hitter. He's batting for Linebrink here in the number 4 spot in the order where Piazza had been. Piazza was lifted in a double switch back in the 7th inning. Josh Barfield, 23-year-old second baseman. And I was kind of surprised, as were you, Joe, and we didn't see his name in the starting lineup today.
Yeah, there are a lot of little things that he can do to help you win a ball game. And Todd Walker's played well today, but I mean, Todd's basically a hitter. That's how he helps you as a hitter. And I guess he was trying to get another bat in there. But Barfield, you know, like you say, more athletic, more range at second base. Still a base for you, score from first on a single. He can do a few more things, but you know, Bruce Bochy has to decide which way he's going each and every day with this lineup.
Barfield hit .280 as a rookie, which is not that easy to do when you play half your games at Petco Park, or for a rookie wherever you play.
No, he had a great rookie season.
He had 21 steals, 13 homers, 32 doubles, and he gets a walk here. So with Yadier Molina no longer in the game, let's see if Barfield can get a jump and try and steal a bag here with Adrian Gonzalez coming up. What do you think?
Well,
an extra run wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, but it depends on. I didn't see him play that much. We didn't do many Padre games. I just saw highlights of him hitting, playing defense. I didn't see him reading a left-handed pitcher. So that's the difference. Can he read this left-handed pitcher to get a good jump at first base?
Here's Brad Thompson, number 48, getting ready now in the Cardinal bullpen, a right-hander. Gonzalez 1 for 2 with 2 walks. He's been on base 3 times. Padres home run leader. And he slaps that slider foul out of play. Meanwhile, in the Padres bullpen, Trevor Hoffman getting ready. And the Cardinals, I mean, Pujols will not be coming up, but Jim Edmonds, Scott Rowland, Juan Encarnacion. You see their career numbers against Trevor Hoffman. Encarnacion actually has had success against him. But Edmonds will be leading it off in the last half of the night. So they have some big hitters coming up against Trevor. Slider right up the middle, base hit. Barfield held up to make sure it wasn't caught by somebody, and he goes to second base. So Gonzalez is on base for the 4th straight time. Adrian Gonzalez gives all of his gear to the coach, Ty Waller, and here comes Tony La Russa. You've got the right-handed hitters coming up now, Cameron and then Khalil Green, and he's got Brad Thompson ready in his bullpen. So Tony is going to the pen again. 2 men on, 1 man out. The Padres trying to add a little bit of extended out across home plate, about halfway to the mound. As Brad Thompson comes in for the Cardinal bullpen to try and keep the Cardinals close. They are down 3-1. And Thompson with 2 men on, 1 man out, and Mike Cameron, a dangerous right-handed hitter, coming up. So Brad Thompson, who was used primarily as a reliever, he had 1 start for the Cardinals. He's a sinker baller. And Tony La Russa would like the double play ball to win the inning here, although Cameron still runs pretty well. He did ground into only 8 double play balls this year. 552 at bats. 2 men on, 1 man out. 3-1 Padres. And a fastball on the inside. Strike 1. Thompson, the 6th pitcher of the day for the Cardinals. A day filled with base runners for the Padres. That curveball is a little bit low. And it goes to 1 ball and 1 strike. What is it now? I'm losing count, Joe. They've received 7 walks in this game to go with 10 hits plus an error. That's 18 base runners. Have you ever seen so many base runners and so few runs in all your years? That's in there for a strike. It's 1 and 2.
We saw it in New York the first few innings, but it wasn't that many, and we've seen, and they've only scored in the 1 inning. So all the other times they've just wasted those base runners. But then again, if you win the ball game, it's not a waste. You know,
Yeah.
I guess in terms of Padre fans, it doesn't matter if you win 3-1 or 12-1. You still win in this situation to stay alive.
If you win, it's just. But if suddenly somebody hits one to tie the game,
then you wonder about it. Now that tells you right there how difficult it is to see. And the reason you'll swing at bad pitches inside is because you see those better. You know, it's coming, you pick it up better on the inside. And that ball was way inside, and here's the guys in the dugout. And they always tell you, stay alive in the dugout. Always keep your eyes on the ball when you're at the stadium. That's for when you're in the stands, when you're in the dugout, wherever you are. Make sure you keep your eyes on the ball.
Yeah, I can never understand how you could be a fan, especially down near the action, and not keep your eye on the ball every second. 1-2 the count to Cameron. Been on base twice. Oh, that breaking ball. He took it, and Brad Thompson looks a little peeved.
Well, I don't think he took this because he thought it was a ball. I think he took it because he couldn't hit it, and you see it was right on the corner according to K-Zone. But I think he took it. He said, I can't hit it anyway. And, you know, there's the shadows. You see the pitcher out here in the sunlight, and then by the time it gets here, it's just in the dark. So
your eyes adjust to the brightness,
and then it tries to adjust to the dark very quickly.
Inside.
What's the old saying? It's like walking out of a hallway in the light into a dark room. You know, it takes you a split second to adjust, and you don't have that long when you're standing in the batter's box and the ball is coming at a high speed.
Like going from the concession stand to get a soda and a popcorn, and then going back into the dark movie theater.
Oh, okay.
How about that one?
All right.
I mean, you go in, you can't see what row you're in.
Yeah, all right.
And the curveball too low. He walks him. And the bases are loaded with 1 out. And here comes Khalil Green. And of course the question with Green is simply, how much does he have to offer with the bat? It's hard to say. He had that finger problem and rarely batted in the final weeks of the season. I mean, he didn't bat at all for many weeks, and then just recently started to take some batting practice. So Khalil Green, he had an at-bat in the 7th inning and grounded out to short to end the inning. His only at-bat of this postseason. And he's got a chance to basically, Joe, put this one on ice with Trevor Hoffman getting ready in the bullpen. The ball down the line in the gap could blow it wide open. And this crowd is so quiet. It's as if rather than Busch Stadium in St. Louis, we're at the 18th green at the Masters. He backs away. I don't want Green to turn around and tell us to hush up. Thompson studies a slight downhill line to the right. And that's in there for a strike. 0-1. The Padres have Barfield at third, Gonzalez at second, Cameron at first. Yeah, the Yankees the other day got 3 runs in the first 4 innings, but put 10 men on base and only got the 3. And then they never got anybody else. They quit getting guys on base. And that sinker bounced foul. So now he's behind 0-2. And so those missed opportunities early in the game a couple of days ago in New York definitely did cost the Yankees big time.
Yeah. Well, again, everything is magnified in the postseason. When you leave runners on, that's magnified at some point in the game because it would have been a different outcome. And you just have to be able. For 2 weeks, you have to be able to play great baseball. That's how we end up with a winner.
Well, this crowd came today with high hopes and maybe even expectations, the way they won those first 2 games, that there would be a big celebration here today. But the Cardinals would wrap it up against the Padres just as they did last year when they swept the Padres in the first round in the division series. But the Padres, with the strong right arm of Chris Young, have had different ideas today. They lead 3-1. They have the bases loaded. He struck him out. Yet another failure for the Padres with runners all over the bases.
It's the same thing you said earlier about Khalil Green. He has not faced enough pitching to be able to make adjustments. That's a pretty good pitch anyway, right on the outside edge. Good breaking ball from Thompson.
Now Jeff Blum has been walked intentionally. He's hit a sacrifice fly, knocking in their third run back in the fourth inning. He has doubled and flying to shallow left. 3 men on, 2 men out. All 3 of the runners ready to go on anything. That is Barfield at third, Gonzalez at second, Cameron over at first. They'll all be off and running at the crack of the bat. And he backdoors him with a curveball. Strike one. Got a pretty good hook, Joe.
Yeah, he does. Well, again, I think it's difficult to pick up the spin on the ball about now, so that helps, but he still has a very good breaking ball.
Got a very youthful face. Brad Thompson. Fastball is blasted foul deep down the right field line. And that one had home run distance, but it was very much foul. Jeff Blum trying to get the big hit for the Padres on a day where they've had 1 hit in 14 at-bats with runners in scoring position. And only 1 for 24 in the 3 games. 0-2 the count. That's to Jim Edmonds. Shading the eyes from the sun. He's got it. And he was really fighting it too. 3 more left on. The Padres have stranded 14 base runners. Last chance. Trevor on the 9th inning. There's Trevor Hoffman on the mound to try and save one for Chris Young. The big hit of the game. The 2-run double by Russell Branyan back in the 4th inning. The only hit with a runner in scoring position for either team. Meanwhile, Chris Young, extraordinary, struck out Albert Pujols twice. Then in the 8th inning, Albert against Scott Linebrick grounded into an inning-ending double play. And turned very well there by Todd Walker as he was getting upended by Chris Duncan at second base. And here is Trevor Hoffman, and that's one of the great scenes in any ballpark, any kind of a stadium. Trevor Hoffman in San Diego, coming in for the bullpen for the 9th inning in a save situation. The bells toll and the crowd goes nuts. And Trevor rarely fails to get the job done.
Definitely.
He has had more saves than anybody in history, and also he's had the best ratio of getting those saves. Even a little bit better than Mariano Rivera in the regular season.
Yeah.
About 90% of the time, he gets done what he was brought in there to do. Although years ago, Joe, he was a real hard thrower with a great changeup. He's no longer a hard thrower now. And whoever emerges from the National League to the World Series will start that World Series in the American League Park, because the American League came from behind in the 9th inning against Trevor Hoffman in the All-Star game in Pittsburgh back in July. So here is Jim Edmonds. He's been walked intentionally, struck out, and fly deep to left center. First ball swinging. Cameron shading the eyes with the glove. Two-handed catch, 1 away. And Joe, do you think you see more first ball swinging against Hoffman?
Well, I think you do, because he's not going to let you don't want him to get ahead with his fastball, because that gives him 2 options. Then he tries to really spot his fastball, or he comes with the changeup, and he's got a great changeup. That's his out pitch.
One of the best in the game. One out. Here is Scott Rowland. Rowland has struck out twice and fouled out to the catcher. Fastball, a strike on the outside. And we got that one at only 83 miles an hour.
Well, obviously speed is not what he uses to get the hitters out. Keeping them off balance is what he uses.
Slider down and away. If Rowland can get aboard, Encarnacion is next, and Encarnacion has had some success against Trevor Hoffman. They need a base runner to make the next hit of the possible tying run. 3-1, the Padres lead. Right to short, nice easy hop. Khalil Green, 2 down. Rowland is 0 for 4 in this game, 1 for 11 in the series. Joe, our Chevrolet player of the game, Chris Young. And why not? What a performance.
Well, a great performance. We saw one last night where Kenny Rogers was the player of the game. Now we're making it a habit. Albert Pujols had been the player of the game the first 2 games in this series. Now pitching takes over.
And his first time on the postseason stage. And he did well on the road. In recognition of his outstanding day, Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. 2 down, nobody on, and Encarnacion takes a strike, an 85-mile-an-hour fastball. Now Trevor, on top of not being a hard thrower any longer, also has had some arm troubles in the last weeks of the season. That is the first changeup, and it's bounced foul off to the left. 0-2 to Encarnacion, who has had no success against Trevor. I thought he had success, but I'm double checking, Joe. He's never had a hit against Hoffman. It was Scott Rowland who's actually done well against Trevor. Another changeup, and this ball game is over. The Padres have survived. There will be a game 4. And now the Padres will have to decide who their pitcher will be. They had not been telling anybody. Is it going to be Jake Peavy, their game 1 starter, or Woody Williams, the former Cardinal, the veteran? It will be Chris Carpenter to try and win it for the Cardinals here tomorrow.
Well, if the Padres are going to win, it's probably going to be with their pitching and they got great pitching today from Chris Young. But if you're going to match up tomorrow against Carpenter, I think you almost have to go back to Peavy. At least that would be my opinion, but obviously we'll wait and see what happens. But the Padres came here and they got the job done, and all they need to do, as they said before, win 1 more, and then they can get back home at least.
3-1, the Padres over the Cardinals, and the 4 veteran sluggers, Pujols, Edmonds, Rowland, Encarnacion, a collective 0 for 15. No hits, 15 at bats. So hopefully we'll be back here tomorrow for a game 4. It could happen on ESPN2. Final score 3-1, Padres over the Cardinals. Next on ESPN2, horse racing. Now for Joe Morgan, Aaron Andrews, and our entire crew, I'm John Miller. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the telecast. Now let's go back to the studio at the worldwide leader in sports, Linda Cohn.